LoveLore Library. Chapter 661. With a beauty in his arms, even a normal man couldn't resist the temptation. What's more, young Ming was really affected by the voodoo. "Ah, what are you doing?" Before Sun Jia finished speaking, she was pulled back by Yang Ming and fell on the bed. Yang Ming forcibly pressed down on Sun Jia. Although Sun Jia was also resisting, a woman's strength was not as great as a man's, let alone Yang Ming, this abnormally strong assassin. In the face of absolute power, all resistance was pale and powerless. When you can't refuse, then accept it. Sun Jia closed her eyes and lay on the bed like a dead fish, ignoring any of Yang Ming's teasing. However, ignoring was just ignoring. Sun Jia thought so in her mind, but her body gradually reacted. Although Sun Jia clenched her teeth, the sensitive reaction of her body still made her unable to help but twist her body. Although Sun Jia didn't want to cooperate with Yang Ming, sometimes, she couldn't just not want to do it. Sun Jia lay on the bed with her back. He didn't know if she was asleep or pretending to be asleep. Yang Ming hugged Sun Jia from behind with some regret. "Am I too reckless?" Thinking about his actions just now, there was no doubt that he was forcing Sun Jia. Although Sun Jia didn't say anything, any girl would feel uncomfortable in her heart. "Are you angry?" Yang Ming asked softly. Sun Jia didn't speak, but Yang Ming's keen intuition noticed that Sun Jia's body moved slightly. "Be my woman," said Yang Ming. Sun Jia sighed softly and then said faintly, "Go to sleep. I don't want to talk about this now. Your means make me feel that your character is very bad. I should carefully consider our relationship." Yang Ming's heart was cold. Sun Jia's thinking is really different from other women. At this time, she can still consider the problem so calmly. "I'm sorry," Yang Ming said apologetically. "Forget it. Last time, I forced myself on you. This time, we are even," Sun Jia said faintly. However, the more Sun Jia said this, the more uncomfortable Yang Ming felt in his heart. He couldn't help but curse the YY novels on the internet. Who said that a woman can push a man a second time? It is said that the more you push, the better the relationship will be. Why am I getting more nervous? Although Sun Jia said this, the only thing that made Yang Ming feel fortunate was that Sun Jia didn't refuse to let him hug her to sleep. In this way, it showed that Sun Jia didn't completely hate him. Early the next morning, what Yang Ming didn't expect was that Sun Jia didn't mention anything about last night as usual. She wore her clothes and went downstairs with Ming's body. Yang Ming even thought that Sun Jia would no longer pursue his responsibility, but Yang Ming was wrong. During breakfast, Sun Jia said to herself, "Dad, Mom, Yang Ming still has something to do at home. He will go back in a while." Yang Ming listened to Sun Jia's words and stared at Sun Jia. Is she chasing me away? "Little Yang, are you in such a hurry?" Sun Jia's mother looked at Yang Ming with some surprise. "Oh, there is indeed something urgent to deal with," Yang Ming said with some embarrassment. "If that's the case, then you don't have to be in such a hurry, right?" Sun Jia's mother said with some reluctance, "Why don't you leave after dinner? Yang Ming may have something to do there." Sun Hongjun said, "Let's get down to business first." After that, he gave Yang Ming a "I understand" look. Yang Ming broke into a sweat. Sun Hongjun obviously misunderstood him. He thought that he was in a hurry to go back to deal with the affairs of Jiduan City, so of course, he agreed with him. Yang Ming glanced at Sun Jia, but found that she didn't look at him at all. So, he said helplessly, "I will go back after breakfast." Since Sun Jia didn't have feelings for him, Yang Ming couldn't force it. After breakfast, he said goodbye to Sun Hongjun and Sun Jia's mother, and then planned to leave. Unexpectedly, when he was about to leave, Sun Jia said, "I will go with you. I should go back to Songjiang." "Aw." Yang Ming looked at Sun Jia in surprise, but he didn't catch any expression on her face. "There are still things to deal with in the company. Don't think too much," Sun Jia said indifferently. "Then let's go." Yang Ming sighed and said, "Are you driving?" "I'm not driving. My car is being maintained. It will be sent to Songjiang when I come back." Sun Jia opened the door of the BMW's passenger seat and got on the driveway. "I'm here to get a ride." "Then let's go." Looking at Sun Jia's serious look, Yang Ming's mood was a little depressed. "Are you still angry with me?" Yang Ming drove the car, but his hand was unconsciously placed on Sun Jia's thigh again. "I said that we're even. Why are you angry?" Sun Jia shook her head. "Fortunately, Sun Jia didn't take my hand away." Yang Ming vaguely felt that things might still turn around. He didn't know why Sun Jia didn't accept him now, but at least she didn't reject him too strongly. "Then why did you suddenly want me to go back to Songjiang?" Yang Ming asked with some disbelief. "Isn't it for your safety?" Sun Jia rolled her eyes at Yang Ming with some annoyance. "Yesterday, I was talking to you about serious things. In the end, you didn't do anything serious." Yang Ming laughed twice and remembered that Sun Jia was talking about him hitting Ouyang Junyuan yesterday, so he said awkwardly, "What does this have to do with my safety?" "If my guess is correct, this time, the Ouyang family is likely to blame this on you." Sun Jia recovered her usual calmness and said, "As I said yesterday, it is impossible for the Ouyang family to touch the Sun family unless they want both sides to suffer. However, if they don't take revenge for this, they will definitely not give up. Therefore, to weigh the pros and cons, it is better to target you, the murderer who hurt others, than to target the entire Sun family. If they can't do it openly, they are likely to do it secretly. So, in this way, you are in danger. I don't know if you are really stupid or pretending to be stupid. I let you leave Donghai because I don't want them to find you." "Ah!" Yang Ming was stunned. He didn't expect that Sun Jia didn't drive him away because of what he did to her yesterday, but because of his safety consideration, she let him leave. He couldn't help but feel a warmth in his heart. "It turns out that you still care about me. You are sticking up for me. If it were anyone else, I would also care," Sun Jia said without leaving any face. "As long as it's not because of what happened last night, it's fine to drive me away." Yang Ming was relieved. "Don't mention what happened last night again. Just this once." Sun Jia shook her head and said, "I don't know what you are thinking. You got my body, but you can't get my heart. What can you do?" Yang Ming was shocked. He pursed his lips and didn't say anything. However, from Sun Jia's tone, he heard a faint disdain. "You can rest assured. You will fall in love with me," Yang Ming said with some dissatisfaction. His male chauvinism began to play tricks again. Sun Jia's contempt made him very uncomfortable. "Really? I don't know what I am thinking. You can still assert my future." Sun Jia smiled. "Then let's wait and see," Yang Ming said confidently. "All right, then I'll have to wait and see." Sun Jia turned to look at Yang Ming and said, "I want to see what you, a little boy, have that attracts me and makes me fall in love with you. It's not enough to be good in bed." Yang Ming sweated after listening, but he also felt very comfortable. With his understanding of Sun Jia would only behave so casually in front of him. Moreover, with the fact that he pushed her down first, Yang Ming was confident that he could still make Sun Jia fall in love with him. "However, before that, you'd better be careful. I don't want to be a widow." Sun Jia turned the thread of discussion and said seriously. I still don't put the people of the Ouyang family in my eyes. Yang Ming said indifferently, if they dare to come, I guarantee that they won't be able to return. Don't be too arrogant. It is said that the Ouyang family supports an assassin organization. Sun Jia said, if they send an assassin to kill you, your kung fu is nothing in the eyes of others. Okay, I'll be careful. Yang Ming thought, that's because you haven't seen my true level, but he also knew that it was useless to say anything now. If he said more, Sun Jia would think that he was bragging, so he simply nodded humbly. And, if there is any trouble, call me. Sun Jia instructed. Although Yang Ming was still not sure about Sun Jia's thoughts, Sun Jia's concern for him just now made Yang Ming very satisfied. Back in Songjiang, Yang Ming sent Sun Jia back to the company and drove home. Sun Jia held her head and quietly leaned on the desk. Her mind was in chaos. For so many years, Sun Jia had a feeling of confusion for the first time. She thought that she would never fall in love with a man in her life, but Yang Ming broke into her life. Chapter 662. Do I love him? Sun Jia couldn't say it clearly. This feeling was very strange. She couldn't explain it clearly. Subconsciously, Sun Jia didn't want to develop another relationship. Since the last incident, Sun Jia had become indifferent to the relationship between men and women. However, when all this was in front of her, Sun Jia didn't know where to go. Originally, she thought that Yang Ming treated her so rudely yesterday. She would hate him and hate him. However, this morning, Sun Jia didn't have any special hatred. Although she was a little annoyed, she was annoyed that she was interrupted by Yang Ming when she was talking about serious matters yesterday. Forget it. Let nature take its course. Although she didn't understand why her father suddenly looked at Yang Ming differently, was it because Yang Ming's ruthlessness yesterday was appreciated by her father? Sun Jia shook her head. She didn't participate in the underworld matters. She didn't know what the person who was appreciated by her father was like, so she subconsciously thought that it must be Yang Ming's actions last night that were appreciated by her father. Now, she could only take one step at a time. Some things should be ended when it should be ended. Although Sun Jia didn't want to admit it, she really found that, as Yang Ming said, the feeling of doing it with a man was really different from doing it with a woman. It was very different. Sun Jia wasn't very nostalgic about the feeling in the past. Sun Jia picked up the phone and dialed a number that she hadn't contacted for a long time. Hello, it's me. Sun Jia hesitated and said, are you free recently? Come out and meet me. Sun Jia didn't know what was said on the other side of the phone. After listening, she said, well, call me when you have time. I'm in Songjiang now. After putting down the phone, Sun Jia sighed. How could I think of ending this unclear relationship? Is it because of Yang Ming? Maybe I'm really tired of it. Sun Jia shook her head and didn't think about these messy emotional entanglements. She opened the company's file and began to deal with some documents that had piled up because of the Chinese New Year. When Yang Ming returned home, he heard a conversation coming from the living room. He thought it was his father and factory manager Feng talking about the factory. Oh, no, it should be manager Feng. The factory was approved by the city. It was wholly owned by the Mingyang Group and restructured into the Songjiang Mingyang Heavy Industry Group. It specialized in the production of auto parts. Because of Old Buffon's leadership, the production line was in place immediately. Not only could it produce auto parts, but it could also produce blenders, cranes, and other construction equipment. Therefore, the original name of the Songjiang Mingyang Automobile Company was not suitable. It was simply renamed to the General Heavy Industry Group. According to Old Buffon's words, he wanted to ship a few helicopter production lines from Europe. Originally, it was rare to build a factory in a foreign country for a confidential technology like aircraft manufacturing, but old Buffon's family happened to hold an aircraft company. The civilian Airbus and fighter production lines obviously could not be easily exported, so they could only give Yang Ming the helicopter manufacturing technology with a lower threshold. For this reason, old Buffon was still a little ashamed. After all, Yang Ming was his own master. He should face his master without reservation, but because of the limitation of the European Union, some things couldn't be decided by old Buffon personally. Even so, Yang Ming was already very grateful. He secretly decided that he would try his best to teach old Buffon some real skills without violating his principles. After all, China's kung fu was broad and profound. Whether he could comprehend it or not depended on himself. However, for example, Yang Ming could teach him some superficial kung fu such as acupuncture points. At least, it was enough to show off in front of his friends. "Dahai, can you help your big brother this time?" The voice in the living room was the voice of Uncle Yang Dashin. "Big brother, it's not that I don't want to help you, but I really can't help. The factory has just started operating. There are too many places that need money." Yang Dahai said, "And, isn't your funding gap a bit too big? Dahai, aren't you the chairman of the group? What you said doesn't count. Just 5 million. With 5 million, my entertainment city can survive." Yang Dahai said anxiously. "Big brother, recently, old Buffon and I have also learned a lot of business. I also know about the situation of your entertainment city. If you continue to operate like this, it will be the fate of bankruptcy sooner or later. This isn't something that can be saved by money." Yang Dahai sighed. Yang Ming heard the general idea. It turned out that his uncle's entertainment city was really in a crisis as he expected. According to his management, this result was inevitable, but Yang Ming didn't expect that it couldn't survive for a few days. Moreover, what made Yang Ming gratified was that his father seemed to finally be enlightened. He had become a lot more tactful in dealing with people. He no longer promised anything easily and began to see things comprehensively. Come to think of it, it was all thanks to Feng Wanjiang and Ho Shenhan during this period of time that his stubborn father learned the way of business. "Dahai, you can't watch your big brother die." Yang Dashin said anxiously, "This entertainment city is done with Bao Sanli and Brother Bao. If it goes bankrupt, Brother Bao will kill me. He is in the underworld." AI. Yang Dahai sighed helplessly. After all, he was still his own big brother. Yang Dahai couldn't be cruel and ignore it. He had to say, "Big brother, what do you want me to do? I really can't make the decision about money. Moreover, you know that the group is now funded by the Ming Yang Entertainment Group. I'm just a nominal chairman. Dahai, aren't you very close to President Ho of Ming Yang Entertainment? Can you talk to him and ask him not to pursue my responsibility? Otherwise, I will really be killed." Yang Dashin saw that he couldn't borrow money, so he wanted to save his life. Also, the entertainment city that he partnered with was losing a lot of money. Yang Dashin was upset. When he didn't know what to do, he suddenly heard that his brother, Yang Dahai, suddenly became the chairman of Song Jiangming Yang Heavy Industry. Although it was fully invested by the Ming Yang Entertainment Group, at least he was a senior executive of Ming Yang. He could definitely talk to Ho Jinhan. As long as President Ho gave face, he wouldn't be in any danger. I can help you, but I can't say whether it will work or not." Yang Dahai nodded and agreed. That's good. Yang Dashin saw that Yang Dahai promised him, so he was relieved. When he looked up, he saw Yang Ming coming in. He quickly said, "Yang Ming, you are back." Hello, uncle." Yang Ming nodded faintly. He was a little annoyed in his heart. This uncle just doesn't listen to advice. I told him not to get involved in these unfamiliar industries. Now, he lost all his money, but he came to ask for help. Yang Ming. What do you think about Uncle's Entertainment City? Yang Dashin knew that Yang Ming and Bao Sanli had a good relationship, but he didn't know to what extent. Uncle, what is the current situation of your entertainment city? Yang Ming frowned. You always say that you lost money. This is very vague. You have to at least let me know what your situation is now, so that I can decide how to help you. It's still my eldest nephew who understands me. When Yang Dashin heard Yang Ming say this, he suddenly said, the current situation is that Entertainment City isn't making money at all. It can't make ends meet every day. I thought that this was just the beginning. As time passed, it would get better, but I didn't expect that the current situation is getting worse and worse, and the reputation has become worse. Many people privately said that I am not honest. How am I not honest? When I opened, I entertained them for free, but in the end, I am not honest. It really pisses me off. Uncle, it is because you were too free when you opened, that people turned around and said that you are not honest. Yang Ming shook his head and said, the free service you started gave these people a bad habit. They thought that it was natural for you to be free. If you weren't free, it would be your fault. Yes, many of them think so. Yang Dashin smiled bitterly. I was wrong to be free at the beginning. This group of ungrateful people. Forget it. Let's not talk about this. How much money do you have now? Asked Yang Ming. None. Moreover, I thought that I could pay back the bank loan after a few months of operation, but I didn't expect that now. Not to mention making money, it would be a miracle if I didn't lose money. Yang Dashin sighed. Let's do this, uncle. Since you are here, then I can't be too disrespectful. Although Yang Ming was somewhat dissatisfied with his uncle's stubbornness, in any case, he was his uncle after all. He couldn't ignore him when something happened. Moreover, the most important thing was that Tianzhou Entertainment City was not only his uncle's own industry, but also half of Yang Ming's. I will talk to Brother Bao about your matter. Yang Ming said, President Ho has a good relationship with my father. Starting from these two aspects, I think they won't trouble you, but the management rights of this hotel will probably not be given to you. Chapter 663. Then, it doesn't matter. As long as I don't have to repay the bank loan. Yang Dashin was also helpless. He had lost all his assets and still owed the bank loan. Now, as long as the bank didn't ask him for money, he was already very lucky. Why would he care about other things? Uncle, actually, how do I say it? Yang Ming hesitated and said, you're really not suitable for doing business. Ah. Yang Dashin was stunned, but he had nothing to say. After all, he really lost money. Uncle, you could make money in the battlefield because of the situation at that time. In the 90s, there weren't many people who didn't make money. As long as there was a drive, you could make money. Yang Ming said, but now the situation is different. Making money also depends on flexible means and brains, especially business like the entertainment city. It doesn't mean that you can manage it well just because you know how to play interpersonal relationships. You must have reasonable management means. Yang Ming, when you said this to me, I didn't believe it, but now, I have to admit that uncle was really a little hot-headed at that time. Yang Dashin said with some embarrassment, you say that I'm really too much. The battlefield is doing well. Why did I involve myself in this unfamiliar industry? The money at home is enough to spend. Why did I have to be so greedy? Uncle, since you can understand this truth now, it's not too late. Yang Ming waved his hand and said, just treat it as spending money to buy a lesson. You don't have to worry about this anymore. I will find someone to take over the entertainment city in these 2 days. As for your battlefield, I will find a way for you. I will try my best to help you set it up again. In the future, you can manage it with peace of mind. Aw. Really? Young Dashin was surprised and couldn't close his mouth. That's great. Young Ming, you didn't lie to Uncle, right? I won't lie, but I can only say that I will try my best to deal with it for you. Young Ming smiled and said, I can't guarantee whether it will succeed or not. Okay, then I will wait for the good news. Young Dashin felt that his nephew, Young Ming, was more reliable than his brother, Young Dahai. He was secretly happy. It seemed that this trip was not in vain. After saying what he wanted to say, Young Ming didn't want to stay any longer. He refused to stay for dinner and left Young Ming's house. Big Ming, are you going to help your uncle? After Young Dashin left, Young Dahai quickly asked. So what if we don't help? I can't just watch him be embarrassed, right? Young Ming was also somewhat helpless. He spread his hands and said, it's the most difficult thing to say between relatives. Sigh. Young Dahai also sighed. If it weren't for the money being yours, I couldn't make the decision. I had just promised your uncle to help him. Hee, I say, Dad, you've matured a lot during this period of time. Young Ming smiled and said, if it were in the past, you might have already agreed. You wouldn't have considered so much. You little brat, what do you mean? Young Dahai glared. What do you mean I've matured a lot? I'm already your father. How am I not mature? I mean in terms of business and dealing with interpersonal relationships. Young Ming also knew that his expression was a bit vague, so he quickly explained. You little brat. What are you talking about? Young Dahai gave Young Ming a slap on the head, then put away his joking tone and said to Young Ming, the company will be listed in a few days. We are acquiring it as a whole, so the factory site is still in the same place. It's just that the personnel and organizational structure have changed. And you can discuss this matter with Ho Jinhan and Uncle Feng. You don't have to ask for my opinion. Young Ming nodded and said. Who asked for your opinion? How can you say that? Young Dahai rolled his eyes and said, Dad is discussing with you. Okay, discuss. Then you say it. Young Ming didn't expect his dad to be so calculative, so he had to say so. There is one more important thing. It's like this. Young Dahai said slowly, there is a big star named Shuya who is coming to Songjiang to hold a concert. The Ming Yang Entertainment Group is the leader of the entertainment industry in our city. The city's cultural bureau wants to ask if Ming Yang Entertainment has the idea of hosting a concert. After all, in Songjiang, there are not many who have this strength, and only Ming Yang can hold the scene. Ha, Dad, do you know what it means to hold the scene? Young Ming couldn't help but laugh. Didn't I learn it from old Feng? Young Dahai smiled bitterly and shook his head. I have been running around with old Feng for a while. I know a lot of people from all walks of life. I can't not be familiar with this kind of society. This position of chairman is really a position to train people. In short, as long as you feel happy. Young Ming looked at his dad's very passionate expression and was very gratified. Right, this matter should be handled by Big Ho. What does it have to do with you? This matter is indeed handled by President Ho, but he said that our Songjiang Mingyang Heavy Industry Group has just been listed, and our reputation has not yet been established. It is better to use this concert to build momentum, so he suggested that the concert should be hosted by the Heavy Industry Group. Young Dahai explained. Oh. So that's the case. Young Ming thought about it and said, this is a good thing. Big Ho is right. Shuya is now one of the top stars in the country. The concert in Songjiang will definitely be broadcasted by many TV stations. As long as the group's advertisement is interspersed, then the reputation of our group will be established. That's fine. Since you think so, then I will discuss it with old Feng, said Yang Dehai. Right, how is Wang Jinde? Yang Ming suddenly remembered Wang Jinde. The last time he asked him to come to the temple fair to pick him up, but because of Chen Mingyan's sudden incident, Yang Ming didn't wait for Wang Jinde to come and left the temple fair. He hadn't seen this kid, so he didn't know how he was doing recently. Yes, he is a smart person, Yang Dehai said with appreciation. When the group was restructured, many of the reference opinions of the Human Resources Department were proposed by him. Not only did the original Human Resources Department be streamlined, but many useful new departments were also set up. It seems that this kid is still okay. Yang Ming was relieved. Right, that foreigner, Mr. Old Buffon, who provided us with help, looked for you a few times. I told him that you went out of town. He asked me to tell you when you came back that he looked for you. Yang Dehai suddenly remembered something and said, "Oh, I got it. I will contact him." Yang Ming naturally knew why old Buffon was looking for him. After a simple lunch at home, Yang Ming went out of the house again. During the Chinese New Year, Yang Ming was very busy. As soon as he was free, Yang Ming decided to visit Zhou Jijia in the hospital. He just called Ho Xinhan and asked about Zhou Jijia's condition. The answer he got was still not very optimistic. Zhou Jijia didn't show signs of waking up. In the hospital, several attending doctors were in contact with Yang Ming, so Zhou Jijia's every move was under the control of Yang Ming. These days, although Yang Ming didn't visit in person, he also called to pay attention to Zhou Jijia's injury. Ho Xinhan's BMW X5 had now become Yang Ming's personal car. Ho Xinhan himself bought an Audi A8 as a business car. He also equipped Earthly Paradise and Nightless Club with a Rolls-Royce and a Hummer as a welcome car. Pushing open the door of the ward, Yang Ming saw Zhou Jijia's mother sitting at the head of Zhou Jijia's bed with a haggard face. She held Zhou Jijia's hand and said something. The originally spirited and luxurious woman had now become thin and pale. Yang Ming looked at it and felt apologetic in his heart. "Auntie Hua," Yang Ming called softly. Mother Zhou looked up and glanced at Yang Ming. Then she nodded faintly. Her eyes showed a hint of bitterness. "You are here. And, Auntie Hua, is Jijia's situation better?" Although he had been paying attention to Zhou Jijia's situation, he couldn't help but ask. "She is out of the critical period. It is hard to say when she can wake up." Mother Zhou sighed and said to Yang Ming, "Auntie wants to ask you for a favor." "Ah. What is it?" Yang Ming was stunned. When he saw Mother Zhou in the past, she either looked down on him or ridiculed him. But this time, she didn't have the previous attitude. Her tone of speaking to him became very sincere. This made Yang Ming a little overwhelmed. "Auntie wants to ask you. When you are free, can you often come and accompany Jijia for a while?" Mother Zhou looked at Yang Ming eagerly. Accompany her and talk. The reason why Mother Zhou was so polite to Yang Ming was that she had learned some things about her daughter during this period of time. Mother Zhou couldn't believe that her daughter was such an infatuated girl. However, all this was told to her by her daughter's good friend, Wang Shui. She had to believe it. Chapter 664. It seemed that her daughter had always had a one-sided love, and she had misunderstood Yang Ming before. However, the misunderstanding was a misunderstanding. Her daughter was still injured because of Yang Ming, so Mother Zhou naturally wouldn't have a good impression of Yang Ming. But helplessly, the doctor told her that her daughter's current situation could be said to have fully recovered. As for when she could wake up, it was entirely up to her. Now, Zhou Jiejia was in a state of self-isolation. She refused to contact the outside world and refused to wake up. It seemed that there should be a knot in her heart that hadn't been untied. If she wanted her to wake up as soon as possible, she could only find a way to untie her knot. And how to untie this knot wasn't something that the doctors in the hospital could do. Therefore, the doctor suggested that Mother Zhou spend more time with Zhou Jiejia to talk. Maybe it could untie her knot. If Zhou Jiejia had a lover or a friend, it was best to let them spend more time with Zhou Jiejia. Maybe they would know what Zhou Jiejia wanted or had a knot in her heart. Therefore, Mother Zhou found Zhou Jiejia's good friend, Wang Shui, according to the doctor's suggestion. She learned about the whole thing between her daughter and Yang Ming from Wang Shui. After listening to Wang Shui's narrative, Mother Zhou suddenly thought, could it be that the knot in her daughter's heart was Yang Ming? If Yang Ming could spend more time with her daughter, maybe her daughter would wake up soon. Therefore, there was the scene just now. Yang Ming didn't expect that Mother Zhou's request for him was actually this. He couldn't help but say sincerely, Auntie Hua, Zhou Jiejia was injured because of me. Even if you didn't say it, I would often come to visit Jiejia. There is no need to ask at all. That's good, that's good. Mother Zhou nodded and said, you come and talk to Jiejia. I'm going to eat something. Okay. Yang Ming didn't think much and sat on Zhou Jiejia's bed. Mother Zhou wanted to avoid it. She really hoped that if she wasn't there, Yang Ming could talk to her daughter privately so that her daughter could wake up as soon as possible. If he was here, Yang Ming would definitely be too embarrassed to say anything. After Mother Zhou left, Yang Ming held Zhou Jiejia's hand tenderly. It was a little cold, but it was smooth to the touch, causing Yang Ming's heart to skip a beat. Seeing Zhou Jiejia's pale face, Yang Ming faintly sighed. His debt was too big. From the moment he made the promise, Yang Ming had already decided that he could not ignore this girl in the future. Whether Zhou Jiejia woke up or not, Yang Ming would take care of her forever. If it was possible, he would also put on a wedding dress for her. This was also his promise to her. A man's promise was also a promise for a lifetime. Probably, there are some secrets of Zhou Jiejia in this diary, right? Yang Ming now also wanted to know more about Zhou Jiejia, so he gladly accepted this diary. After chatting with Wang Shui for a while about Zhou Jiejia's condition, Yang Ming got up and left after Mother Zhou came back. Old Buffon already knew about the news of Yang Ming's return. At the moment, he was waiting for Yang Ming at the hotel. For old Buffon, Yang Ming was still very apologetic. He helped Yang Ming a lot. Although Yang Ming was his master, it was just a title. Yang Ming did not teach him anything. After coming out of the hospital, Yang Ming drove to the Moon Island Hotel where old Buffon was staying. When old Buffon heard that Yang Ming was coming, he greeted him at the door early. When he saw Yang Ming, he immediately trotted over, Master, be quiet. Don't let others hear it. Yang Ming frowned. I know. Old Buffon immediately looked around and then lowered his voice, I know how to keep it a secret. People who practice martial arts like to be low-key. Yang Ming shook his head helplessly and went upstairs with old Buffon. After closing the door of the room, Yang Ming put away his smile and sat on the bed in the room. He said to old Buffon, Old Buffon. Now I officially accept you as my disciple. Thank you, master. Although old Buffon had long known that Yang Ming had promised him, he was also overjoyed when he heard Yang Ming say it so solemnly. He quickly knelt on the ground and kowtowed 3 times respectfully according to the etiquette he knew. Yang Ming saw that old Buffon was kowtowing to him at such an old age. He couldn't bear it in his heart, but there was no seniority in martial arts. Those who were capable were the teachers. The rules were so everything could only be done according to the rules. Yang Ming could only accept it calmly. Don't be happy too early. I still have to explain some things to you first. Yang Ming waved his hand and said faintly. I know. Is there a sect rule? I will abide by it. Master, you can rest assured. Old Buffon nodded quickly and said. The sect rule is one thing, but the most important thing is that I can only accept you as an outer disciple. Yang Ming looked at old Buffon apologetically. With your current age and qualifications, it is impossible to inherit my legacy. Therefore, I will only teach you some practical martial arts that can strengthen your body. I understand, Master. I also know my current situation. Old Buffon nodded. Okay, then I will teach you some practical martial arts now. Yang Ming said, do you want to learn fighting skills or acupuncture points? Acupuncture points. Oh, my God. Master, are you serious? You want to teach me acupuncture points? Old Buffon's eyes were full of surprise. Yang Ming nodded slowly. I can teach you some superficial knowledge. It is impossible for you to learn systematically. The human body's meridians can't be learned in a short time. I can only teach you a few simple and easy to identify big acupuncture points. For example, you can make people laugh or temporarily lose their ability to move after you point it. Yang Ming couldn't teach those profound acupuncture points without Fang Tian's permission, so he could only pick some superficial things to pass on to old Buffon. Chapter 665. After receiving that phone call, Xiaoqing began to feel a little restless. She thought that it had been over for so long. Moreover, that person had not contacted her for a long time. But she didn't expect to suddenly receive a call from that person again. Xiaoqing had a headache. She didn't know what she was looking for. Did she want to continue to maintain that relationship with me? Since she was with Yang Ming, Xiaoqing had cut off contact with that person. Originally, Xiaoqing had tried to forget about this matter, but now after receiving this call, Xiaoqing didn't know what to do. Should I meet her or not? Xiaoqing was in a dilemma. She was afraid that Yang Ming couldn't accept it, so she didn't tell Yang Ming about it. But now, Xiaoqing was really afraid. To be honest, she didn't want to meet that person again. But if she didn't meet her, Xiaoqing was afraid that that person would come and bother her. If Yang Ming found out, what should she do? But then again, if I meet her, what should I do if she still pesters me? In this way, Yang Ming would know about it sooner or later. For a while, Xiaoqing couldn't make a decision. Yang Ming naturally didn't know Xiaoqing's troubles. After leaving old Buffon's place, he drove to the Nightless Club. What do you think of my uncle's entertainment city? Yang Ming asked Ho Xinhan and Bao Sanli. Brother Yang, what do you think? Bao Sanli asked carefully. Tianzhou Entertainment City was losing money. Of course, he was very clear about it, but the current operator was Yang Ming's uncle, Yang Dashan, so Bao Sanli didn't dare to interfere easily. If it were someone else, they might have been killed already. I want to hear your opinions now, said Yang Ming. Brother Yang, forgive me for being blunt. Your uncle is not suitable to run the entertainment city. Ho Xinhan hesitated and said. Go on. Yang Ming waved his hand and said. Seeing that there was no displeasure on Yang Ming's face, Ho Xinhan continued. Now the entertainment city is operating at a loss. If we want to reverse the current situation, we must change the entertainment city. Not only the business model must be changed, but the operators must also be changed. Well, I will do as you say. Yang Ming nodded and said, what is my uncle's original sand field doing now? I don't know. It seems that after it was bought by others, they still do business in the battlefield. Ho Xinhan thought about it and said. Buy that sand field back and give it to my uncle. Let him manage his sand field in peace. Send someone to take over the entertainment city, Yang Ming said. Okay, no problem, Brother Yang. Ho Jinhan responded. Also, check the Ouyang family in Province P. I want detailed information. Yang Ming ordered. Province P. Our intelligence network hasn't reached that far yet. It may take some time to investigate. Ho Jinhan hesitated and said. It's not very urgent. When Chen Mengyan heard Yang Ming's words, she immediately refused. Why wouldn't I dare? Didn't you already agree? Yang Ming asked with a smile. When did I agree? Chen Mengyan was inexplicable. Didn't you say that you agreed with me looking for Shuya? Asked Yang Ming. Shuya. You saw Shuya. After Chen Mengyan asked this sentence, she shook her head first. Impossible, you are just bragging. If you don't believe it, then forget it. Yang Ming smiled and said, don't regret it when the time comes. Okay, when have I ever regretted it? Chen Mengyan simply didn't believe that Yang Ming could have a relationship with Shuya. Yang Ming went abroad this time, not to Hong Kong. How could he meet Shuya? Let's find a place like a coffee shop to sit down. In this cold day, we can't always stand outside and talk. Yang Ming suggested. Let's go. I know there is a good cold drink shop nearby. Chen Mengyan suggested. No way, cold drink. It's winter, okay. Yang Ming was stunned. Who told you that the cold drink shop only has cold drinks? Chen Mengyan smiled and said, according to what you said, the cold drink shop should be closed in winter. Isn't it? Yang Ming's previous family conditions weren't very good. He didn't go to the cold drink shop many times. The only few times he went were during the summer with Zhang Bin, so he didn't know that the cold drink shop was open in winter. Of course not. Chen Mengyan explained, in winter, the cold drink shop will sell some hot drinks and juice. Otherwise, the cold drink shop will lose money. It turns out to be like this. Yang Ming scratched his head embarrassedly. Then, let's get in the car. Your car. Chen Mengyan glanced at the BMW X5 suspiciously. Kind of. Yang Ming nodded. Why? Don't you like it? Not really. I just think that you are now a college student. Isn't it a bit eye-catching to drive a BMW? Chen Mengyan hesitated and said. Then, should I take down the BMW logo tomorrow and change it to another one? Yang Ming saw a funny post on the internet. It was about a person who drove a BMW. In the end, the BMW logo on it was always stolen. In the end, the person found a logo of a domestic car and put it on it. Since then, it had never been lost. Chen Mengyan was speechless. Your car looks like this. Can you change its shape? Forget it. Don't bother with that. Hee, this is not the case. Zhang Bin and my company is about to open. We can't not have a car, right? Yang Ming said, besides, sometimes it is inconvenient for us to go out and play. That's true. Right, Zhang Bin called me a few days ago. He said that he couldn't contact you. Chen Mengyan suddenly said, I only said that you were far away. I didn't tell him that I couldn't contact you. As she said this, Chen Mengyan had some hidden bitterness. Abroad, the SIM card here can't be used. I thought you were still angry, so I didn't contact you. I didn't expect you to figure it out yourself. Yang Ming spread his hands and explained. Chapter 666. It seemed that Chen Mengyan still didn't believe that she had met Shuya. However, Yang Ming was just teasing her. At least for now, Yang Ming didn't have any special thoughts about Shuya. The reason why Yang Ming was more interested in Shuya was that he felt that Shuya had a secret. From her, he might be able to find Shuya's secret. My dad's factory is going to host Shuya's concert. Seeing that Chen Mengyan didn't believe him, Yang Ming was very depressed. Why do you have so little confidence in your man? She's just a small celebrity. How can she be so unattainable? Besides, in terms of value, I'm not what I used to be. Therefore, Yang Ming threw out such a heavyweight bomb. Sure enough, after Chen Mengyan heard it, her face became a little ugly. What you said, is it true? Why would I lie to you? Yang Ming smiled and said, isn't my dad's factory restructured? Now it has become Songjiang Mingyang Heavy Industry Group. In order to be able to make a name for himself, he decided to use the concert to build momentum. Oh, it turned out to be like this. Chen Mengyan said with embarrassment. She didn't expect that her casual promise would actually take effect so soon. Her heart was naturally uncomfortable. Although, even if the concert was hosted, the opportunities for Yang Ming and Shuya to contact each other were few, not to mention that there were so many concert organizers in the country. Which one could really have that kind of relationship with a celebrity? However, Chen Mengyan still felt a little uncomfortable. Isn't this creating an opportunity for Yang Ming? Moreover, it's an opportunity that I acquiesced to. However, Chen Mengyan wasn't the kind of person who didn't keep her word. She still wasn't ready to go back on her words, so she said with some anger, then you have to work hard. What do I have to work hard for? Yang Ming shook his head helplessly. You said you were the little vinegar jar, but I think you're an old vinegar. I didn't disagree with you contacting her. Chen Mengyan was embarrassed by Yang Ming's words. Hee. Yang Ming just laughed and didn't say anything. How annoying. Chen Mengyan was embarrassed by Yang Ming's smile. She took a sip of the juice in her hand and pretended to forget the previous topic. By the way, we have a high school reunion in a few days. Are you going? High school reunion. Who organized it? Yang Ming was stunned after hearing it and asked. The group secretary of our class, Lu Haiyan, called me and told me about this. She should be the one who initiated it, right? Chen Mengyan said. Yang Ming suddenly realized that when Chen Mengyan mentioned the reunion, the first person he thought of was Wang Jitao. However, at this moment, how could Wang Jitao still have the mood to do these things? If you go, I will go. Yang Ming said indifferently, anyway, when I was in high school, there were only a few people who had a good relationship with me. It was just you and Zhang Bin. Who asked you to always skip class? Chen Mengyan thought about it. When Yang Ming was in high school, he really didn't have many good friends. Then I will sign you up. Chen Mengyan said. Okay. Yang Ming nodded. He didn't know when it started, but there would be a class reunion every once in a while. Whether it was junior high school classmates or high school classmates, it was the same. However, the nature of the class reunion was getting more and more different. From the initial bonding, it had become the current competition. Comparing university, comparing family background, comparing boyfriend and girlfriend. In short, Yang Ming felt very bored at this kind of gathering. A group of familiar strangers sat together and talked nonsense. It was a waste of time to go. However, since he was with Chen Mengyan, it was not a big deal to change the place for a date. He chatted with Chen Mengyan for a while about the interesting things in high school. Then, seeing that it was late, Yang Ming sent her home and arranged to contact her by phone. Yang Ming felt that this was the busiest year in his life. He had never done this and that non-stop like now. Every year during the Chinese New Year, his uncle would organize a meal for the whole family. However, this year, he was overwhelmed by the entertainment city. He had no time to treat. When Yang Dashan learned about the result of Bao Sonli's handling, he was very grateful to Yang Ming while rejoicing. Yang Dashan was very clear in his heart. If it weren't for Yang Ming, he would have been crippled even if he didn't die. After the accounts and procedures were handed over, Yang Dashan happily went back to manage his business. This time, he probably wouldn't dare to easily set foot in other unfamiliar fields for the rest of his life. Ming Yang's strength was strong. Originally, with the support of Yang Ming, it was no longer a problem in terms of funds. Now that it had annexed Wang Century Xiongfeng Group, its funds were even more abundant. Not only did it pay off the bank loan, but it also carried out a thorough renovation of Tianzhou Entertainment City and relisted it as the Nightless Club Entertainment Aircraft Carrier for business. The Nightless Club was also a time-honored brand in Songjiang's entertainment industry, so when it reopened, it attracted a lot of guests. The business was very prosperous. Yang Ming's and Zhang Bing's jewelry company had also entered the final preparation period amidst all the calls. The shop in the commercial street was easily taken down because of Wu Zhongjie's relationship. After some renovations, they were waiting for the opening. Jewelry companies were different from other companies. They needed a stable supply of raw materials and excellent jewelry designers. None of these were indispensable. "Bro, where have you been all this time?" Zhang Bin complained very discontentedly. "Since the Chinese New Year, you have disappeared. Wasn't I contacting the suppliers for our company?" Yang Ming said shamelessly, "I contacted a diamond mine in South Africa. In the future, our diamonds can be mined directly from there." "My dick." Zhang Bin was stunned. "I say, is it true? Diamond mine? It's so big." "Nonsense. Diamonds are the most expensive thing in jewelry. If we don't have a good supply channel for this thing, how can we make money?" Yang Ming thought, "Luckily, I found such a reason to fool around. Otherwise, this guy, Zhang Bin, would really be unbalanced." It could be seen that Zhang Bin didn't have a good Chinese New Year this year. He had been following up with the jewelry company. From the renovation to the preparation for the opening, it was all done by him alone. "Right, when are you free? Let's go abroad," Zhang Bin said. "Still going abroad?" Yang Ming was stunned. "What are we going abroad for? Didn't your godfather contact a few designers for us? Let's go to Europe and invite them to see if we can invite them." Zhang Bin said, "Otherwise, our jewelry design won't have any special features. Do we still need to go abroad personally?" Yang Ming shook his head. "I just came back from abroad. I don't want to go out, but the designers won't come over." Zhang Bin said helplessly, "We have to go personally to see if we can think of any way. You wait. Let me make a phone call." Yang Ming suddenly thought of old Buffon. Isn't this guy very influential in Europe? Why don't I ask him and see if he has any ideas? As a result, old Buffon happily agreed to help Yang Ming invite a few designers over. Moreover, he said indifferently that there were several well-known designers who designed jewelry for his family. He could just send a few of them. Zhang Bin looked at Yang Ming in surprise. He actually solved a big problem with a phone call. He couldn't help but be very surprised. "Who did you call?" "My dad's partner, a very powerful person in Europe," Yang Ming explained casually. Fortunately, Zhang Bin didn't continue to ask. There were few reports of international news in China, especially those that had nothing to do with the international situation. In newspapers and magazines, there was almost no reprinted foreign news. Only occasionally on the internet could some international news be seen. Yang Ming saw the news of Dorsk's mysterious death on the Alice on a small portal website. Interpol had confirmed the identity of Dorsk. He was one of the active drug lords in Europe. The cause of death was very strange. He was killed by an iron nail nailed into his skull. Yang Ming searched for similar pages on Google and Yahoo in English. The content of the news was similar. It seemed that this matter was deliberately suppressed and was not widely hyped. He didn't know if it was Hossack's credit. In short, this matter was over. Interpol didn't pursue it to the end. However, someone was very concerned about Dorsk's death. This person was Dorsk's son, Little Dorsk. Chapter 667. Dorsk was dead, but he didn't feel anything. Little Dorsk was very clear about what his father was like. He was a big villain, and he usually made many enemies. Who knew who killed him because they didn't like him? But what Little Dorsk cared about was that his father's deposit in the Swiss bank was gone. Yes, that was more than 30 billion euros. For various reasons, Little Dorsk did not inherit his father's business. Instead, he was the leader of a casino. But obviously, he wasn't a good person, but he wasn't as eye-catching as a drug dealer. This was also Dorsk's intention because if something really happened, he would be finished. His son couldn't have anything happen to him. Because gambling was legal in their city. So after getting the news that his father was killed, Little Dorsk's first reaction wasn't to investigate how his father died, but he quickly found his father's Swiss bank account in the safe in his father's study. The safe in his father's study was fingerprint verified. If it was forcibly removed, it would activate a self-destruct device. When it was set up, this safe only recognized the fingerprints of the father and son. Little Dorsk was the only son, and he wasn't worried about someone robbing the family property, so he didn't ask about the money in the family before. This was the first time he activated this safe. According to the steps his father told him, Little Dorsk opened the safe. In the safe, there were some valuable jewelry and a Swiss bank account certificate, as well as some scattered capital accounts. Little Dorsk didn't care about those scattered capital accounts. They were all loose money, and the amount wasn't much. It added up to more than 100 million euros, and most of it was still in the Swiss bank. The Swiss bank account was an anonymous account. The reason why it was anonymous was that Dorsk was afraid that one day something would happen to him, and the black gold would be dug out by Interpol. The anonymous account didn't have this trouble. As long as the account and password were mastered, anyone could operate it. But if the account and password couldn't be mastered, no one could touch the money inside. Although Little Dorsk didn't know how much money was in his father's anonymous account, it wouldn't be a small amount. Little Dorsk dialed the phone number of the Swiss bank and entered the account and password according to the voice prompt. The result surprised him that there were only 138 euros in the account. Little Dorsk was shocked and quickly called the customer service line of the Swiss bank. He wanted to ask if there was something wrong with the system. After the service staff verified Little Dorsk's account number and password, the service staff informed Little Dorsk that there was a sum of money in the account that had been transferred out a few days ago. And the date and time that was transferred was around the time that his father, Dorsk, was killed. Little Dorsk was immediately stunned. He quickly asked about the whereabouts of the money, but unfortunately, he only found another anonymous account. He couldn't know the information of the account holder. Of course, Little Dorsk wasn't stupid. He immediately connected the time before and after and thought of a terrible fact. That was, the murderer who killed his father had transferred the money in his father's account while killing him. Little Dorsk went crazy. That was more than 30 billion euros. He had already checked the detailed amount from the transfer record. Therefore, Little Dorsk had to start investigating the process of his father's murder. However, he unfortunately found that his investigation had hit a wall everywhere. The local police who handled the case refused to disclose any information to him on the grounds that the case was confidential before it was solved. The attitude of the staff on the Alice was even worse. They didn't care about him at all. When he mentioned Dorsk, the staff had a look of contempt. It seemed that his father's reputation was very bad. However, from the mouths of several of his father's bad friends, little Dorsk still heard something. At the time of his father's murder, there was only a Hong Kong star named Shuya who had a grudge with his father. His father wanted to play with her, but he was rejected. At that time, both groups were very unhappy. Shortly after that, his father was killed. However, little Dorsk didn't believe that Shuya could kill his father. She didn't have that ability. The Eagle Temple of the Mingming group and several of his men died with his father. Only Shuya and her father, Shu Haikwa, were on the ship together. Little Dorsk studied the information of Shuya and Shu Haikwa in detail. He felt that the suspicion of these two people was not big. It was impossible to have any intersection with his father. Europe and Asia were very far away. His father's business was only in Europe. It had not yet developed to Asia. The cooperation with the Eagle Temple was just an attempt. Therefore, Shu Haikwa and Shuya had no past with his father. The conflicts and contradictions on the ship were also temporary, and it was just a simple quarrel. Little Dorsk didn't think that Shuya would kill his father in the future, so he naturally excluded Shuya. However, after excluding Shuya, little Dorsk fell into a dead end. The entire ship was full of tycoons and celebrities. Although many people didn't like his father, there was no conflict of interest. Who had such a big hatred with his father? Could it be an outsider? After thinking of this, little Dorsk seemed to have grasped something. Yes, the people on the ship were all tycoons and celebrities. The possibility of murder was not very high, especially on the Alice. Everyone knew the background of the ship owner, Alice. If he caused trouble on this ship, once the matter was exposed, his troubles would be endless. Even if the police didn't pursue it, Alice wouldn't let go of the troublemaker. The Alice had always been known for its safety and peace. How could Miss Alice tolerate others destroying it? In particular, little Dorsk also faintly knew some of Alice's background and rumors. It was impossible for the other people on the ship not to know. If that was the case, then his conjecture was more likely to be true. The time when his father was killed happened to be the time when the Alice was docked at Henry Island. What if someone took advantage of the time when the ship was docked to sneak into the ship to assassinate? This wasn't impossible. Thinking of this, little Dorsk began to have a headache. If this was the case, then the investigation was really troublesome. The scope was too wide. Moreover, the mobility of people on Henry Island was relatively high. Although Henry Island wasn't a public island, anyone who wanted to come to the island had to register. However, the servants and bodyguards of the rich just followed their masters to do a simple registration before they could enter the island. If the assassin was mixed in with the servant team of a tycoon, then there was really no way to investigate. The clues were cut off. Little Dorsk was troubled by these things every day. However, just as little Dorsk was helpless and drowned his sorrows in the bar, he heard an important clue. "Do you know the guy Dorsk?" A man who seemed to have a high status whispered to one of his companions. "You mean Dorsk? Isn't he the big drug lord who died on the Alice a while ago?" The man's companion asked, "Why? Are you familiar with him?" "Right, didn't you also participate in the party on the Alice?" "Me? Of course, I don't know him." The man snorted. "It was a good party. I was hoping to get to know more celebrities. Because of this guy's death, the party was forced to end." Motherfucker. It seemed that Dorsk's reputation wasn't good. Little Dorsk was so angry that his face suddenly turned red, but he didn't get angry because during his investigation during this time, he also saw that his father wasn't very likable. There were many people who scolded him. This person in front of him didn't make a difference. Moreover, little Dorsk wanted to see if he could hear some useful information from this person. Reality proved that his decision was correct, because he really did hear something. If he died, then so be it. What does it have to do with us? The man's companion raised his glass and said, "Come, cheers." Ignore him. Yes, cheers. The man also raised his glass and said, "This motherfucker deserved to die. Who asked him to be so arrogant?" Oh. The man's companion drank the wine in his hand and then asked strangely, "He was arrogant with you? Were you bullied by him?" "I can't say that he bullied me, but his arrogance was too arrogant." The man scolded. "I was annoyed just looking at him. When I went back to my room to rest, I saw a group of black-shirt men grabbing an Asian woman. I kindly asked what was going on. As a result, the group of black-shirt men told me that they were working for Dorsk and asked me not to be a busybody. No way, right? He dared to arrest people on the Alice. His courage is too big." The man's companion was surprised. Chapter 668. Who said he wasn't? The man said angrily, "Let him be arrogant. Look, he will be killed sooner or later." Little Dorsk, who was on the side, heard the conversation between the two people clearly. Suddenly, he was surprised. He didn't expect there to be such a story in between. Father sent someone to kidnap an Eastern woman. Then, this Eastern woman is. She may be an insider. Little Dorsk quickly thought that the woman his father kidnapped was likely to be Shuya. Little Dorsk suppressed the excitement in his heart and came to the table of the two men next to him. He politely pointed to the empty seat next to the table and said, "Hello, both of you. Can I sit here?" "You are." The man who spoke before looked at Little Dorsk and asked in confusion. "Hello, please allow me to introduce myself. My name is Radon." "Dorsk, you can call me Little Dorsk." Little Dorsk introduced himself. "The Dorsk you were talking about just now is my father." What are you doing?" The man and his companion were shocked and looked at Little Dorsk vigilantly. Little Dorsk wasn't a good person. He looked very fierce and had a scar on his face, so the man was instinctively vigilant against him. He had just slandered the other person's father, and now the other person came to him, so he stuttered, "I'm sorry. I was wrong. I shouldn't have slandered your father behind his back. Please forgive my rashness." No. Little Dorsk was such a cunning person. He still wanted to know something from this person. Naturally, he wouldn't care about those useless reputation issues. Little Dorsk waved his hand and said, "You're right. My father is very arrogant, so he was killed. He only has himself to blame." Oh. The man and his companion looked at Little Dorsk in amazement. After a while, the man said, So it is, yeah, but then again, no matter what, he is my father after all." AI. Little Dorsk sighed and said, "Can you tell me the details of when you saw my father's men arresting someone?" Okay. The man saw that Little Dorsk's tone was very easygoing, so he was relieved. He told him his experience at that time in detail. "That Oriental woman, is she the celebrity named Shuya?" asked Little Dorsk. "Well, I think so." The man nodded and said, "Because those people were too fierce at that time, I didn't dare to go forward and take a closer look." "Thank you. What you said is very important to me." Little Dorsk patted the man's shoulder and said, "This drink is on me." Little Dorsk's eyes lit up. Yes, he got this very important information. His father had kidnapped Shuya before he died, which meant that Shuya might have seen how his father died in the end and who killed him. As long as I can find Shuya, I can find the money. Little Dorsk was very excited. After all, it was more than 30 billion euros. It was a huge temptation for anyone. Since he had found a clue, little Dorsk didn't dare to delay. He immediately investigated Shuya's whereabouts. Xiaoqing hesitated again and again, but she still decided to confess to Yang Ming and tell him the truth. After all, this matter could not be concealed. Sooner or later, there would be a day when the truth would be revealed. Moreover, Xiaoqing didn't want to hide anything from Yang Ming. Yang Ming trusted her and told her everything, including the secrets of his special abilities. She still had things to hide from him. Xiaoqing felt uncomfortable when she thought about it. Well, then I will be honest. No matter how Yang Ming looks at me in the future, or if he loves me as much as before, Xiaoqing will accept it. Who asked me to do those things in a moment of confusion? Of course, this decision was very difficult to make. Xiaoqing was also very painful. After all, her attachment to Yang Ming had reached the point where she couldn't give up. From the initial independence to now, she habitually thought of Yang Ming when something happened. She had already regarded Yang Ming as her support for the rest of her life. Whether Yang Ming could give her a status or not, she wouldn't care as long as Yang Ming didn't abandon her. But now the problem was, if Yang Ming really knew about it, would he despise her and dislike her? Xiaoqing didn't know what Yang Ming would think, but if she looked at it from another perspective, if the person involved was Yang Ming, and Yang Ming played with other men behind her back, that was really unimaginable. Xiaoqing felt disgusted when she thought about it. At least, she wouldn't accept it. Now, on the contrary, Yang Ming should have the same general idea, right? Of course, Xiaoqing didn't know about Yang Ming's great ideals. Otherwise, she wouldn't be so panicked. She dialed Yang Ming's phone number with trepidation. Xiaoqing said carefully, "Yang Ming, this is Xiaoqing." "Oh. It's Sister Xiaoqing. Do you miss me?" Yang Ming sent Chen Mengyan home last night and went to Lu Weishan's house. He had been out for so long. When he came back, he should visit his godfather. However, when he went yesterday, he saw that Xiaoqing's mood wasn't very high. She looked like she had something on her mind. However, in front of his godfather and godmother, Yang Ming couldn't ask much. He just told her to have a good rest. "Yang Ming, are you free?" Xiaoqing wasn't in the mood to tease Yang Ming. She said it directly. "Why? You don't want to do it now, right?" Yang Ming smiled and said, "Can't wait." Xiaoqing was silent and said, "Yang Ming, I have something important to talk to you about. Can you come?" "Something important?" Yang Ming was stunned. Xiaoqing rarely talked to him in such a serious tone. This made Yang Ming somewhat uncomfortable. "What's the important thing?" "It's about our future." Xiaoqing hesitated and said, "Let's talk about it when we meet." "Future?" Yang Ming had some doubts, but he still said, "Well, where are you?" "I'll come over now." "I'm at home." Xiaoqing said, "You can come over directly. Wait for me. I'll be there in 15 minutes. Yang Ming hung up the phone and walked into the office. Just now, he was discussing the opening of the jewelry company with Zhang Bin. "Zhang Bin, I'm going out. You study it first." Yang Ming said to Zhang Bin. "No way, bro, are you leaving me alone again?" Zhang Bin smiled bitterly. "Even if you're the bro, you can't do this to me. My life is tough." "Damn, didn't I find the jewelry designer?" Yang Ming said, "This saves a lot of effort. It seems that you can get it done with one phone call." Zhang Bin said with grievance. "Then why don't you get it done with one phone call?" Yang Ming said with a glare. Zhang Bin was speechless. "Well, consider it my bad luck." Zhang Bin accepted his fate. Although Yang Ming was joking with Zhang Bin, he was very anxious in his heart. His intuition told Yang Ming that Xiao Qing must have a problem. Her tone was very strange just now, which made Yang Ming feel very uneasy. He drove directly to the family area of Songjiang Industry University. Yang Ming came to the unit where Xiao Qing was. In order to facilitate Yang Ming's entry and exit, Xiao Qing gave Yang Ming a set of keys, so Yang Ming didn't knock on the door. He went upstairs directly to open Xiao Qing's door. Xiao Qing, who was inside, also heard the sound of Yang Ming opening the door and greeted him. However, her haggard face could be seen by anyone. "Sister Xiao Qing, what's wrong with you? Don't scare me." Yang Ming saw Xiao Qing's appearance and his heart was in pain. He quickly went forward and hugged Xiao Qing. "Ai." Xiao Qing sighed faintly and looked at Yang Ming. She didn't know how to speak. At this time, Yang Ming also noticed that Xiao Qing's eyes were red. Apparently, she had just cried. Yang Ming quickly helped Xiao Qing into the room and put her on the bed. "Sister Xiao Qing, if you have something to say, just tell me. Is there anything that you can't say to me?" "Yang Ming. I'm afraid. I'm afraid that after I say it, you will hate me." Xiao Qing whispered nervously. "I hate you. Why would I hate you?" Yang Ming asked curiously. "If I did something wrong to you." Xiao Qing gritted her teeth and asked. "Did something wrong to me?" After Yang Ming heard it, he suddenly frowned and looked at Xiao Qing. "Sister Xiao Qing, what are you talking about? What did you do wrong to me? In addition to you, I also did it with others. Are you angry?" Xiao Qing probed carefully. In her opinion, it was more acceptable for her to do it with a man than with a woman. After all, this involved a secular issue. Therefore, she asked Yang Ming vaguely. She didn't know that this was even more unacceptable. Chapter 669. When did it happen? Yang Ming's heart sank. Could it be that Xiao Qing fell in love with someone else? However, Yang Ming didn't lose his temper on the spot. After all, Xiao Qing's current identity was only his god-sister. If one day Xiao Qing really wanted to marry someone else, then Yang Ming could only respect her choice. Before I met you," Xiao Qing whispered. "Ah. Before you met me." This time, it was Yang Ming's turn to be inexplicable. Yang Ming was very clear about whether it was the first time between him and Xiao Qing. Therefore, when Xiao Qing said that before she met him, she had a relationship with someone else, Yang Ming really didn't understand. "Sister Xiao Qing, what are you talking about? Don't joke around." Yang Ming smiled and said, "Do you have a fever today?" "Yang Ming, I'm very awake now, and I don't have a fever. I'm talking to you about serious matters. I'm not joking." Xiao Qing's expression became serious. "Well, even if what you said is true." Yang Ming helplessly spread out his hands. "You also said that it was before you met me. I'm not such a narrow-minded person. Before you met me, I couldn't ask you to do anything. So, you don't have to worry about whether I will be angry or not." "But..." Xiao Qing looked at Yang Ming with some disbelief. "Didn't they say that men are very stingy in this regard? Does he not care about me?" However, she saw that Yang Ming smiled at her and said softly, "Xiao Qing, do you remember the blood on the sheets in Hong Kong? How do you explain this? You don't want to say that you just happened to have your period that day, right?" "Of course not. I mean, sometimes you don't have to break it even if you have done it." Xiao Qing's face suddenly turned red. Even though she already had an intimate relationship with Yang Ming, she still couldn't help but feel embarrassed at the moment. "Forget it, Sister Xiao Qing. No matter what you did before, it's all in the past. Yang Ming waved his hand and said, I care about your present, not the past. Really? Yang Ming, do you really think so? After Xiao Qing listened to Yang Ming's words, she immediately looked happy, but then it turned dark because she was completely different from what Yang Ming imagined. The main problem was that he had done it with a woman, not a man. Even if Yang Ming was magnanimous enough to accept his past, would he be able to accept that his woman was once a lesbian? This was what Xiao Qing was most worried about. However, since the conversation had already reached this point, Xiao Qing also threw caution to the wind. She gritted her teeth and said, Yang Ming, in fact, things are not the same as what you think. How is it different? Yang Ming frowned and looked at Xiao Qing's bewildered look. He said with some distress, Sister Xiao Qing, I have already said that no matter what you were like, it is all in the past. What I, Yang Ming, care about is your present. We can't live in the past, can we? Yang Ming. In fact, things are like this. Xiao Qing saw that Yang Ming was so sure of his tone, and her heart couldn't help but calm down a lot. Before I met you, because of Song Heng, I lost confidence in men. It was also during that time that I met a woman who had a similar experience as me. Similar experience. Woman. Yang Ming was stunned and faintly thought of something. And, because we had a common sad experience, we had more common topics between us. We often ate together and went out to play. Later, once both of us were drunk, she proposed to watch a video together. As a result, we saw a movie of two women doing it together. We were confused. Although Xiao Qing said it intermittently and incoherently, Yang Ming had already guessed it, so he also understood. Seeing Xiao Qing lowering her head and talking about these things like a child making a mistake, Yang Ming couldn't help but smile. This Xiao Qing is really cute. Then both of you, that's it. Yang Ming continued with a smile. Xiao Qing nodded. She didn't dare to look at Yang Ming. Hee, what's the big deal about this? Yang Ming shook his head and said, You really think it's a big deal? Never mind a woman, even if you did it with a man, I would forgive you. Isn't it more serious with a woman than with a man? Xiao Qing asked, puzzled. How can that be the same? The consequences of you doing it with a woman are much lighter than with a man, said Yang Ming. Why? Xiao Qing asked. She couldn't understand Yang Ming's thoughts. If you do it with other women, I will feel uncomfortable at most, but if you do it with other men, I will definitely not accept it. Sweat. Yang Ming couldn't help but slap his forehead. How can this be the same? A man and a woman are two different concepts. Two concepts. How can it be two different concepts? Don't you think so? It was no wonder that Xiao Qing, as a woman, found it difficult to understand a man's thoughts. Of course. Yang Ming nodded and said, Think about it. If two women hugged each other intimately on the street, would anyone feel that it was inappropriate? Xiao Qing thought about it. Although she didn't quite understand Yang Ming's meaning, she still shook her head. Isn't this the case? When two women hugged each other, others would think that they were good sisters at most. Yang Ming said, but if two men hugged each other, it would be a bit inappropriate. In fact, the reason is the same. Oh. Xiao Qing didn't know why Yang Ming didn't care about this matter, but since Yang Ming wasn't angry, it was naturally good. So, you don't have any psychological burden? Yang Ming persuaded, in fact, I don't think this is disgusting, but I think it's quite exciting. If we can do it together. What are you thinking about? Xiao Qing pointed at Yang Ming's forehead with some anger and said, Only I can find a little boy who is so much younger than me. Others won't. I'm just saying it casually, hee. Yang Ming scratched his head and changed the topic. Sister Xiaoqing, why did you suddenly tell me this? It's all in the past. Why did you think of it again today? Originally, I didn't want to mention it. It's all in the past. I almost forgot about it. Xiaoqing shook her head and said, but she suddenly called me yesterday. Yang Ming naturally knew who Xiaoqing's she referred to. It must be the little Baihe who played lesbian with Xiaoqing. Why did she look for you? Yang Ming asked casually. I don't know. She asked me out. Xiaoqing said nervously, I haven't contacted her for so long, and she suddenly called me. I'm a little scared. What's there to be afraid of? Yang Ming smiled and said, could it be that she still wants to play with you? I'm afraid of this. Xiaoqing sighed. I didn't want to go to the appointment, but I was afraid that she would come to me and you would know by me. Don't you know now? Yang Ming said jokingly, I know, so you came to me to confess, right? Xiaoqing nodded and said with some embarrassment, I was afraid that you would be angry after knowing, so I simply told you first. If this is the case, then I won't go to the appointment, and I won't bother with her in the future. I think it's better for you to go to the appointment. Yang Ming hesitated and said, explain things to her face to face, so that she won't bother you in the future. But, what if she pesters me? Xiaoqing said with some worry. It's okay. How about this? I'll go with you. Yang Ming said, just tell her that you like men now, and I'm your boyfriend. She can only give up. Yang Ming, are you really going with me? Xiaoqing listened to Yang Ming's words, and her heart was warm. She asked with surprise. Of course, no matter what, she is also my love rival. If I don't stand up for her, who will? Yang Ming nodded and said seriously, if she really doesn't let go, then I can only use violence to solve it. Xiaoqing licked her lips and said with some amusement, don't do that. In fact, she is still very good. Is she beautiful? Yang Ming asked subconsciously. So what if she is beautiful? Xiaoqing snorted and said, let me tell you, don't be delusional. She hates men more than I do. Yang Ming said curiously, didn't you, a lesbian, change because of me? I just hate Songhang. Xiaoqing shook her head and said, moreover, I have some problems with my own physiology, so I haven't had a boyfriend. It's not that I hate men. So, I was taken advantage of by you. But she is different. She looks down on men from the bottom of her heart. She thinks that what men can do, she can do the same. To be honest, I was seduced by her to do that stupid thing. Chapter 670. Oh. Yang Ming smiled after listening. This kind of woman, forget it. I'm not interested. Although Yang Ming's ideals were great, he didn't like this kind of feminist woman. After listening to Xiaoqing's words, he had no other interest in the woman that Xiaoqing mentioned. You only know how to joke. Xiaoqing saw that Yang Ming really didn't take this matter seriously, so she was relieved and laughed through her tears. I'm not joking. Yang Ming had nothing to hide from Xiaoqing. Although the two maintained a relationship, they weren't a couple to the outside world. Therefore, Yang Ming had nothing to hide, so he smiled and said, Sister Xiaoqing, I have an ambition. Don't you know? That is to marry a pair of lesbians as my wives. Xiaoqing was speechless and looked at Yang Ming with a dumbfounded expression. Are you telling the truth? Do you really think so? Why do I feel that you have some psychological problems? Sweat. What problems can I have in my heart? Yang Ming scratched his head and said, I think most men have the same idea as me, right? Really? I really don't understand the mind of you men. Xiaoqing shook her head and said, I thought you would be very angry. I didn't expect you to have this dream. Right, I know a friend who is also a woman who is a lover. I will introduce you to each other one day. Maybe you can get together. Yang Ming thought of Sun Jia very evilly. Anyway, they are my women. It shouldn't be a problem to get together, right? Go to hell. Xiaoqing said angrily, then, if she contacts me again, I will call you, and then you will accompany me to explain to her. Of course. Yang Ming nodded and said, well, baby, don't worry. Right, you tell me. How do you do that between women? And, why haven't you broken it yet? The relationship between Yang Ming and Sun Jia wasn't as close as Xiaoqing's relationship. Even if Yang Ming was curious, he wouldn't ask Sun Jia. However, Xiaoqing was fine, so Yang Ming wanted to find out. Don't. What is there to say? Xiaoqing lowered her head shyly. It's fine if you don't want to say it, but you can demonstrate it for me. Yang Ming said evilly. How do you demonstrate this? You're not a woman. Xiaoqing was puzzled. Let's demonstrate our moves first, and then you can slowly tell me how you did it. As Yang Ming said this, his hand started to wander around Xiaoqing's body. Thus, the garden was filled with spring once again, Hong Kong, inside the Shu family's mansion. Little Ya, this time on the Alice, I let you be wronged. Dad is incompetent. I can't protect you. Shu Haikwa said with some guilt, you also know that our Shu family can't compete with Dorsk at all. Sigh, it can be considered that God has opened his eyes. Someone went to kill Dorsk. I really need to thank this person. Xiaoya, did you really not see what this person looked like? No, my back was facing that person, and that person was also wearing a mask. Of course, Shuya wouldn't tell her father about seeing Yang Ming. Yang Ming asked her to keep it a secret, so she would naturally comply. This was a little secret between her and him. It wasn't allowed to be known by others. However, Shuya was dismissive of her father's words. She even despised her father in her heart. Incompetent. Can't protect. Can't compete. The Yang Ming that you looked down on the most was able to protect me. This is a real man. Oh, it turned out to be like this. Shu Haikwa nodded. But it's fine as long as you're fine. Dad, the first stop of my nationwide concert tour is Songjiang. Shuya suddenly said faintly. Go to Songjiang. Didn't we agree to go to Beijing first? Shu Haikwa said, the publicity there isn't as strong as Beijing. I don't care. I must go. Shuya shook her head. Moreover, I have already discussed with my manager. The schedule has been set. I'm just waiting for the response from the people in Songjiang. You child. Shu Haikwa sighed and suddenly thought of something. He raised his head and looked at Shuya. Are you still thinking about that person? So what if I am? This was the first time that Shuya didn't hesitate to admit her thoughts in front of her father. Yes, on the Alice, the moment she saw Yang Ming again, Shuya couldn't suppress her feelings. She must go to Songjiang. She must find Yang Ming. AI. Shu Haikwa sighed and said bitterly, sure enough. Although you didn't say it, I guessed that you still have him in your heart. Otherwise, why don't you have a boyfriend anymore? I must find him. Shuya said firmly, I have missed it once. I can't miss it a second time. I am very sure of my thoughts now. I love him. You love him. Is that love? Shu Haikwa sighed. How many years have you not seen him? How is he now? What is he doing? You don't even know if he has a girlfriend. Shuya wanted to say that she had seen him, but she remembered that she had to keep it a secret. She swallowed the words that came to her mouth. Shu Haikwa thought that his daughter had nothing to say, so he quickly continued, "You see, you can't say it, right? Littleya, you should wake up." "I don't." Shuya shook her head. "I have grown up. I know what I am doing." The first stop of Shuya's concert was in Songjiang, which made many media reporters surprised. Songjiang was only a second-class city. It wasn't even the provincial capital, let alone the capital and the municipality directly under the central government. However, the official letter of Shuya's company clearly stated that the first stop of the concert was in Songjiang, and it was the longest stop. This made many media very puzzled. Why did Shuya have a soft spot for Songjiang? However, there was no substantial explanation. However, the organizer of Songjiang was determined very smoothly. Lida Company would provide all the latest production lines to manufacture helicopters in Songjiang. As a helicopter seller, Shu Haikwa certainly knew the importance of this news. If this was true, then his supply channel in the future would be Songjiang in the mainland, not Europe. Chapter 671. The price and transportation advantages of Songjiang's aircraft were definitely far better than the imported ones. Therefore, if he could get the helicopter dealership in Hong Kong, it would be equivalent to owning a gold mine. Shu Haikwa naturally knew about Lida Company. It had always been a supplier of high-end helicopters, and its products were very popular. Shu Haikwa spent a lot of effort to get Lida Company's right to operate in Hong Kong. Note that this was not an exclusive dealership. It was just allowing him to sell. However, even so, Shu Haikwa's wealth was rolling in. In a few years, he was on the list of Hong Kong's richest people. This was also why Shuya's acting path had been smooth. Now, Songjiang in mainland China actually built a heavy industry group that could manufacture helicopters. This made Shu Haikwa's mind active all of a sudden. The more daring a person was, the more productive the land would be. He hadn't won the exclusive right to operate in Hong Kong yet. Shu Haikwa even began to think. If he could get the Asian General dealership, how beautiful would that be? Even the world's general dealership. Then, his wealth could make him the richest man in Hong Kong, right? Needless to say, the thoughts of these rich people were different from normal people. Only those who dared to think like them could have a chance to do it big. Otherwise, they wouldn't even dare to think about it, let alone do it. Therefore, it was difficult for people without ambition to succeed. Shu Haikwa could already fantasize about becoming the richest man in Hong Kong. He was really arrogant to a certain extent. Isn't my daughter, Littleya, going to Songjiang? Yes, if I use my daughter's relationship, can I get in touch with the Songjiang Mingyang Heavy Industry Group? Originally, Shu Haikwa wanted to go and see it in person, but the Songjiang Mingyang Heavy Industry Group had just been restructured. Even if the helicopter could be built, it would take some time. They could only recruit agents after the press conference. If he went now, it would be a bit too early. Therefore, Shu Haikwa began to look up the senior executives of the Songjiang Mingyang Heavy Industry Group on the internet. He was ready to record these names and let his daughter deliberately get to know them. The website of the Songjiang Mingyang Heavy Industry Group was very beautiful. Shu Haikwa easily found the senior list of Mingyang Heavy Industry Group among the board members. Yang Dehai. Shu Haikwa was stunned. This person looks quite familiar. However, Shu Haikwa had no impression of the name Yang Dehai. It was no wonder. How could he remember the names of these small fries? However, at this moment, Shu Haikwa couldn't treat Yang Dehai as a small character. In his opinion, Yang Dehai might be his former business friend. Even if he wasn't a friend, he had met him before. Songjiang was just a small place. who hadn't seen these famous entrepreneurs before. However, since Shu Haikwa had no impression of him, he was definitely not familiar with him, so Shu Haikwa wasn't going to play the friendship card. After so many years, who would recognize him? He called his daughter and asked her to come to his study. "Dad, are you looking for me?" Shuya felt a little strange. Didn't he just look for me yesterday? Moreover, because of the matter with Yang Ming, there was some unpleasantness. Therefore, the father and daughter did not speak for almost the entire night. "Littleya, which company is hosting your concert in Songjiang this time?" asked Shu Haikwa. "It's a newly established group." "What's wrong? What does it matter?" Shuya asked. "A newly established group. Is it Songjiang Mingyang Heavy Industry?" Shu Haikwa's heart tightened, and there was some excitement in his tone. "It couldn't be, right? Is it such a coincidence?" "Yeah, it's this group." "Why? Is there anything wrong?" Shuya saw her father's surprised expression and was somewhat inexplicable. "No, no." Shu Haikwa said happily, "Great. It's such a coincidence. If this is the case, then things are easy to handle." "What's the matter?" Shuya frowned. "Dad, what are you talking about?" "Littleya, your dad has always been in the business of selling branded cars and private jets." Shu Haikwa said, "You see, the strength of this Mingyang heavy industry is very strong. They actually cooperated with Europe's Lide company and introduced all the helicopter manufacturing technology and production lines. It is estimated that it will become the largest helicopter production base in Asia. If I can get the exclusive sales agency rights in Hong Kong or even Asia and the whole world, then I can go to the next level in my career." "Dad, do you want me to help?" When Shuya heard her father's words, she understood what he meant. "Yeah, this concert is hosted by them. You will definitely have the opportunity to get in touch with their executives." Shu Haikwa said, "You pay attention and have a good relationship with them. You can also pave the way for Dad." Shuya hesitated, but she still nodded and said, "I will try my best." After all, it didn't take much effort. She originally wanted to take the opportunity of negotiating the spokesperson to get to know the executives of the Mingyang Heavy Industry Group and see if she could help Yang Ming's father. Hee, great. Shu Haikwa saw that his daughter agreed, so he smiled and said, "If this business is really one, then you will be the daughter of the richest man in Hong Kong in the future. There will be many young men who want to climb up to you." When this was said, Shu Haikwa immediately realized that something was wrong because his daughter's face immediately sank. She said with some disgust, "Dad, no matter what you are like, I am still me. I don't want to lose my freedom because I have too much money. I said that I have grown up. I want to live according to my own ideas." Okay. Shu Haikwa quickly mediated, "I won't say it." However, Shu Haikwa's heart was very conflicted. To be honest, looking at his daughter, who had been brooding over the past few years, Shu Haikwa, as a father, naturally felt bad in his heart. But when he thought that he would soon become the richest man in Hong Kong, he was a little unwilling. What kind of glory is my identity? My daughter's husband should also be of equal status, right? It was no exaggeration to say that with my daughter's identity, what kind of man can't she find? However, seeing that his daughter was in a bad mood, Shu Haikwa couldn't finish his words. "Right, Littleya, look at the information on this web page. These are several executives of Mingyang Heavy Industry. When the time comes, you should pay attention to having a good relationship with these people." Shu Haikwa turned the laptop screen to his daughter's direction and said, "Oh." Shuya wasn't interested. She nodded casually and looked at the laptop. At first glance, she couldn't help but be surprised. Yang Dehai. It can't be such a coincidence, right? Shuya was surprised to see the name of the chairman of the board of directors of Songjiang Yang Heavy Industry on the computer screen. Shu Haikwa didn't know Yang Dahai, but Shuya was very familiar with this name. This was the name of her lover's father. For Yang Dahai's appearance, Shuya couldn't remember it clearly, but she remembered this name. Because in junior high school, the school often asked parents to sign the students' exam papers, which meant that they knew the students' grades. This name often appeared on the test papers of her desk mate, Yang Ming. Therefore, Shuya's impression was still very deep, but for Yang Dahai's appearance, she had only seen it once, so it was already very vague. Could it be that this group has two people named Yang Dahai? However, looking at the age, it seems to be that person without a doubt. Yang Ming's father is actually the chairman of the group. What the hell is going on? However, thinking of the magical experience of meeting Yang Ming on the Alice, Shuya felt that everything was not so impossible. Yang Ming's identity was full of mystery. He could actually appear on the Alice and rescue me from Dorsk's men. What happened to Yang Ming's family? Shuya was very curious. What's wrong? Littleya. Shu Haikwa saw Shuya in a daze and thought that she remembered something, so he said, "Do you also think that this Yang Dahai is familiar?" "I think so too. It seems that I have seen him before, but I forgot. I think he is an unfamiliar friend." Listening to her father, Shuya had no doubts at the moment. It seems that this Yang Dahai is really Yang Ming's father. Seeing her father's face that wanted to flatter, Shuya's heart was really uncomfortable for no reason. She said coldly, "Friend. Maybe he hates you too much, right?" "Hates me?" Shu Haikwa was stunned and said, "Littleya, what's going on? Is this Yang Dahai my enemy? Why don't I remember?" "I can't say that he is an enemy, but the dealership that you want is probably enough," Shuya said faintly. "What do you mean? What the hell is going on? Littleya, can you explain it clearly?" Shu Haikwa was shocked. "Don't scare me." Chapter 672. What is the predecessor of this group? Have you studied it? Shuya glanced at her father and asked. Predecessor. It's the Songjiang bus factory. What's wrong? I haven't dealt with them before. Shu Haikwa asked, puzzled. Yeah, the Songjiang bus factory. Didn't you look down on the employees of the factory? Shuya frowned and said sarcastically. Shuya was now disgusted with her father's snobbish character. When he needed someone, he would approach them with a smile. If he didn't need them, he would ignore them and even ridicule them. Look down on the employees of their factory. When did I? Oh, are you talking about that Yang Ming? Shu Haikwa suddenly realized. Do you remember? Shuya said very plainly. I remember. You, Littleya, really bear grudges. How many years have passed? You still remember. Shu Haikwa shook his head and said, Are you taking advantage of this time to settle old accounts with me? It's not that I bear grudges. I mean, I'm afraid that Uncle Yang will bear grudges, right? After Shuya said this, she didn't know why, but she felt a little refreshed in her heart. Uncle Yang. What do you mean? Shu Haikwa was stunned, and then his eyes stayed on the computer monitor in front of him. He said with some surprise, Really? Littleya, do you mean, this Yang Dahai is the father of that kid, Yang Ming? His father is indeed called this name. I'm not very clear about it, but it should be 80 to 90%. Shuya's heart suddenly had a kind of pleasure for no reason. Because of what? Did I help Yang Ming vent his anger? Speaking of which, why am I on Yang Ming's side? The person in front of me is my own father. Shuya was also very puzzled, but when she saw her father's expression, Shuya felt very happy. Who asked him to be so snobbish? What? Is it really him? Shu Haikwa widened his eyes and carefully looked at the photo of Yang Dahai on the computer screen. After a long time, he said, I was wondering why it was so familiar. It turned out to be him. Now that you have asked for help, let's see what you can do. Shuya snorted. Littleya, didn't you go to him? You see, if it is really his father, can you speak for me? Shu Haikwa hesitated and asked. I don't care about this anymore. Shuya shook her head. You said it. I don't know what Yang Ming is like now. He might have a girlfriend now. What's the use of me going? Shu Haikwa was a little embarrassed. This, sigh, who would have thought that a worker like him could become the chairman of the group now? Dad, you should change this bad habit of always looking down on others. Could it be that you were rich from the start? Shuya shook her head and said, if it doesn't involve Yang Ming, I can still tell you. But now, I really can't do anything about it. Forget it, it's my own fault. Shu Haikwa shook his head helplessly. Although Yang Ming was accompanying her, Xiao Qing was still a little worried when she called him. She said cautiously, can I bring others with me? There are some things that I want to make clear to you. The other party was obviously stunned after listening to Xiao Qing's words, and then said, okay, no problem. Xiao Qing didn't expect the other party to agree so quickly. She was really confused for a while. She told this to Yang Ming, but Yang Ming didn't care much. Yang Ming didn't care about the other party's attitude, but if she dared to snatch Xiao Qing from him, then even if she was a man or a woman, Yang Ming wouldn't give her face. If talking nicely didn't work, then he would use force. Who was afraid of who? Now that Yang Ming had the support of the Sun family, he had the final say in the province. At 9:00 on Saturday morning, Yang Ming accompanied Xiao Qing to the agreed place. It was a very quiet coffee shop, which was suitable for talking about some things. Xiao Qing wore a pair of big sunglasses because she was afraid that others would recognize her. Yang Ming was with Xiao Qing, so he naturally had to disguise himself. Yang Ming and Xiao Qing were very punctual, but the other party seemed to have come earlier. She should have the same idea as Xiao Qing. In order to avoid suspicion, she also wore a pair of large sunglasses on her face, covering all the areas around her eyes. Although this kind of disguise was ineffective against Yang Ming's special ability, Yang Ming wasn't bored enough to use his special ability to peek at a person's appearance when he saw her, so he didn't pay attention to the other party's appearance. He sat opposite the other party casually, and then put his hand on Xiao Qing's shoulder intimately, declaring his sovereignty. Let me introduce. This is my boyfriend. Xiao Qing hesitated and said, sorry, I already have a boyfriend. Oh. The other party was obviously stunned. She didn't expect Xiao Qing to have a boyfriend. Moreover, looking at the actions and intentions of the two people, it seemed that they had misunderstood her original intention. The other party was a little dumbfounded. She came to find Xiao Qing to relieve the awkward relationship between the two, but they obviously thought that she wanted to continue to pester Xiao Qing. However, the man in front of her looked quite familiar. It was just that the sunglasses were too big, covering half of the face. It was somewhat difficult to recognize. Cough cough. Yang Ming didn't have so much time, and he didn't want to waste time with the other party, so he said straightforwardly, I say, lesbian girl, my wife has already made it very clear to you. Don't pester her in the future. Otherwise, don't blame me for being rude. I don't care if you like women or what. If you annoy me, I will still you. Yang Ming, what are you talking about? Xiao Qing glanced at Yang Ming with a bitter smile. After all, she and I were once in the same boat. Even if we had some relationship that was beyond friendship, we were still relatively close. Yang Ming's words were a bit too harsh. The other party originally listened to Yang Ming's voice and began to have some doubts. When Xiaoqing said the name of Yang Ming, she couldn't help but be surprised and shouted, "Ah, it's you?" However, the other party immediately pretended to close her mouth as if nothing had happened. However, the word "you" was enough to make Yang Ming suspicious. Yang Ming raised his head suspiciously and looked through the other party's sunglasses with his special ability. When he saw it, Yang Ming almost jumped up. My goodness, it can't be such a coincidence, right? Sun Jia. It's actually Sun Jia. Yang Ming took off his sunglasses. Anyway, he knew that Sun Jia recognized him. It was useless to continue pretending. Alright, stop pretending. We're all on the same side. Take off your glasses and have a good talk. Yang Ming resisted the urge to laugh and said seriously. Yang Ming, what are you doing? Xiaoqing was somewhat confused and looked at Yang Ming strangely. AI. Sun Jia looked at Yang Ming's action. How could she not know that Yang Ming recognized her? So, she took off her sunglasses and looked at Yang Ming awkwardly. She sighed and said, Yang Ming, is she your girlfriend? Who are you asking? Yang Ming looked at Sun Jia with a smile. What do you mean? How many do you have? Sun Jia was stunned. You and her. Isn't that two? Yang Ming smiled and said, this is really a coincidence. Yang Ming, little Jia, do you know each other? Xiaoqing looked at Yang Ming and Sun Jia very suspiciously. Yes, of course, we know each other. Yang Ming didn't wait for Sun Jia to speak and said, Sister Xiaoqing, is she your girlfriend? When Xiaoqing saw that Yang Ming knew Xiaoqing, her expression was even more awkward. When she heard Yang Ming ask such a sharp question, her face suddenly blushed, but the facts were there. She had to admit it, so she nodded and said, and, what about you? Dear, why are you looking for my wife? Yang Ming turned to look at Sun Jia again. Who is your dear? Sun Jia rolled her eyes at Yang Ming. I have nothing to do. She didn't know why, but when Yang Ming was in front of her, Sun Jia couldn't say the words that she wanted to say before. Otherwise, it would seem that she broke the relationship with Xiaoqing because of Yang Ming. Sun Jia just didn't want to see Yang Ming's proud look. Oh, that's fine. Since there is nothing, then the three of us can drink coffee and chat together, and think about the future. It could be seen that Yang Ming's mood was very good. It was no wonder. How could Yang Ming not be happy? Originally, in the final analysis, it was all for himself. Since both of them were his women, then if something happened between them, Yang Ming himself wouldn't suffer a loss. Sun Jia's lips moved, but she didn't say anything. Xiaoqing said strangely, Yang Ming, what the hell is going on? This is not a place to talk. Why don't we find a hotel, get a room, and talk about it? Yang Ming said evilly. Okay, Yang Ming, if you don't want to say it, let me say it. Sun Jia had adjusted her emotions and said calmly, Xiaoqing, you also saw it. I know Yang Ming before. Chapter 673. So you know each other. Xiaoqing hadn't figured out the situation yet, so she didn't dare to talk. However, you can rest assured that there is nothing between me and Yang Ming. Yang Ming is just pretending to be my boyfriend. Sun Jia hesitated and said, my dad forced me to have a boyfriend, so I caught Yang Ming to be a man. I say, Sun Jia, isn't it a bit wrong for you to say that? Yang Ming listened to Sun Jia's words, but his heart was a little uncomfortable. What do you mean by nothing? Then what about the two people before this? One night stand. Two night stand. This made Yang Ming, a male chauvinist, feel a little disgusted. There are no outsiders here. Can't we just talk about it? Okay. This is what you asked me to say. Sun Jia didn't care about Yang Ming's words at all. Xiao Qing, since this guy doesn't feel ashamed, then I have nothing to hide. Indeed, I was raped twice by this guy, Yang Ming. Do you know why I came to you this time? I just want to break off our previous relationship with you. As for why, I'm just afraid that this guy, Yang Ming, has some dirty disease and will pass it to me. Then, it won't be good if I pass it to you. Ah. Xiao Qing looked at Sun Jia blankly and couldn't speak. Yang Ming was furious. He stared at Sun Jia with a black line on his face. Can you speak with some morals? If I pass the disease to you, will you be happy? It's you who asked me to say it. I'm just telling the truth. Sun Jia held back her smile and said seriously. But what surprised the two people was that Xiao Qing actually interrupted, "Little Jia. Yang Ming is not sick. You don't have to worry too much, what?" Sun Jia and Yang Ming looked at each other at the same time. This time, they smiled bitterly and shook their heads. I'm joking. Sun Jia explained helplessly, Xiao Qing, the thing between me and Yang Ming is just an accident. And, you know, I don't like men. You can rest assured, oh. Xiao Qing frowned and nodded. No one knew what she was thinking. 2 women, 1 man. But they had a very ambiguous relationship with each other, which made the atmosphere at Yang Ming's table become a little strange. However, this atmosphere was soon interrupted. There was a noise from the next table. It was a conflict between a few young people and the waiter in the coffee shop. We ordered 3 cups of coffee. Why did you charge us for 4 cups? One of the young men in a basketball jersey pointed at the waiter and shouted. Sir, you clearly ordered 4 cups. Look, there are still 4 cups on the table. The waiter pointed at the used cutlery on the table and explained in a low voice just because there were 4 cups, it would be 4 cups. Then you put 100 cups here and it's 100 cups. What kind of fucking logic is that? The young man in the basketball jersey scolded. But sir, didn't you have 4 people before? You think about it carefully. One person left first, and he also asked for a cup. The waiter patiently reminded. The previous person. The previous person drank coffee. Why don't you care if the previous person wants to go? What are you telling me? The young man in the basketball jersey didn't want to do it and glared. Aren't you guys together? The waiter was a little helpless, but when he saw the 3 young men in front of him, he didn't dare to be angry. He had to continue to explain. What together? Who said that we are together? The young man in the basketball jersey said impatiently, if you continue to dawdle, I won't give you the money for these 3 cups. Weren't you talking together just now? You ordered the coffee together. Why do you say that you aren't together? The waiter said awkwardly. Fuck. Are you done? The young man in the basketball jersey waved his hand and said, what's wrong with talking? There are many people who talk to you every day. Do you know them all? Then you also talk to me. Are you going to pay for me too? Sir, aren't you being unreasonable? The waiter muttered. What the fuck are you talking about? Who is being unreasonable? Are you tired of living? Are you tired of living? The young man in the basketball jersey said as he picked up the teapot on the table and threw it at the waiter. The waiter was shocked and quickly dodged to the side, but it didn't matter. The teapot went straight to Yang Ming's table. Yang Ming was angry immediately. I don't care if you don't pay, but if you throw the teapot to my side, then it's your fault. How fast was Yang Ming's reaction? Seeing that the teapot was about to hit him, Yang Ming simply waved his hand and the teapot flew back in its original direction. However, some of the water in the teapot still splashed out and sprinkled Yang Ming and Xiao Qing. This wasn't something that Yang Ming could control with his human strength. Yang Ming could block the teapot, but he couldn't block the water. It was precisely because of this that Yang Ming's counterattack didn't hold back. The teapot flew back and directly hit the face of the young man in the basketball jersey. It suddenly hit his nose and made him bleed. The sudden change made the waiter and the young man in the basketball jersey stunned. Then, the young man in the basketball jersey reacted. He covered his nose and shouted in the direction of Yang Ming, "You stand up for me. You still talk about our Dong Hai. It seems that there are a lot of little punks in Songjiang." What kind of situation had Sun Jie not seen? She didn't put these little punks in her eyes at all, so she could still talk and laugh. Yang Ming smiled bitterly. When he was in Donghai, because Wang Qinzhen came to make trouble, Yang Ming had ridiculed Sun Jie. He meant that in the Sun family's territory, there were still little punks who dared to trouble Sun Jie. This management was really bad. Now, although Sun Jie still didn't know that the behind-the-scenes boss of Songjiang was Yang Ming, it could be regarded as revenge. "In Songjiang, no one knows you." Yang Ming smiled. "Then what do we do now? Are you going to fight against 3 of them?" Sun Jie looked at Yang Ming and asked. 3 of them, 3 of us. It's very fair. Yang Ming said indifferently. "Do you think Xiao Qing and I can fight?" Sun Jie said as she glared at Yang Ming. "Sister Xiao Qing doesn't. Then I will solve 2 of them, and you will solve 1. Yang Ming smiled. "Yang Ming, I find that I hate you a little more." Sun Jie said seriously. "If you want me to be a hero and save the beauty, just say it. Don't beat around the bush." Yang Ming shook his head. "You caused the trouble yourself. Why do you want to save the beauty? They are looking for you, not me." Sun Jie's voice just fell, but she didn't expect it to come true. "Fuck, didn't you hear me talking to you? Are you deaf?" The young man in the basketball jersey was anxious. When he saw Yang Ming actually flirting there, his anger increased greatly. However, when he saw the appearance of Xiao Qing and Sun Jie, he was stunned, and then his saliva flowed down. "You little brat really enjoy it. You are flirting with 2 beauties. How about this? You leave these 2 beauties, and I will make an exception and let you go." When the young man in the basketball jersey said this, Yang Ming was amused. He looked at Sun Jie with a smile. "Look. They let me go, and they let you stay. Do you have the heart to let your sister Xiao Qing stay?" Sun Jie snorted. "Of course, I don't have the heart." After Yang Ming finished speaking, he turned his head and said to the young man in the basketball jersey, "We can't leave the 2 of them. Let's discuss. Can we leave 1 of them?" 1. The young man in the basketball jersey smacked his lips, and then said thoughtfully, "We are all very strong. Can she stand it?" Sun Jie listened to Yang Ming's words, and she was mad. This Yang Ming, isn't his words too sarcastic? Leave 1 of them. Does that mean he wants me to stay? Xiao Qing, who had not spoken, was a little anxious at the moment. "Yang Ming, don't mess around. What are you talking about?" "I'm not talking nonsense. I don't like to meddle in other people's business. If it's my woman, I will care. If it's not my woman, why should I care?" When Yang Ming said this, he observed Sun Jie's reaction with the corner of his eyes. However, he helplessly found that Sun Jie didn't have any change in expression. She just stared at him fiercely. "Who is going to stay? Have you discussed it? I think this big-breasted chick is good. Let's go with her." The young man in the basketball jersey stood behind Yang Ming, and he could see Sun Jie directly. When he saw Sun Jie's hot body, he began to be a little restless. When he said this, his hand grabbed Sun Jie. Yang Ming immediately frowned. He was a little unhappy. I was just joking with you. Did you really take it seriously? Chapter 674. How could Yang Ming let this guy take advantage of Sun Jie? Although he said that he wanted Sun Jie to stay, if someone really dared to touch her, what would happen? Yang Ming grabbed a fork from the tableware on the table. With a schwa sound, he nailed the young man's hand directly to the table. The coffee shop belonged to a type of Western restaurant. There was a fork in the tableware provided inside. Although Yang Ming didn't order the food that was eaten with a fork, each set of tableware was the kind that was packaged. Even if the fork wasn't used, it was included. Damn! The young man in the basketball jersey cursed in pain. His eyes almost popped out. Looking at his bleeding palm, he resisted the pain and shouted, "You fucking dare to stab me? Don't you know who I am? Stabbing you is already considered light." Yang Ming said indifferently, "You drenched me in water. How can you endure it? Don't you know who my grandfather is?" The young man in the basketball sweater said fiercely. "Who is your grandfather? Is it Grandpa Bai?" Yang Ming joked. "Yes, my grandfather's surname is also Bai." He didn't expect the young man in the basketball sweater to nod seriously. Yang Ming was stunned. He didn't expect this guy to admit it. He was suddenly somewhat inexplicable. However, when Yang Ming was stunned, the young man in the basketball sweater took out a pistol from his pocket and shot in the direction of Yang Ming. "Be careful." Sun Jie had been paying attention to the young man in the basketball sweater. When she saw him suddenly take out the gun, she quickly reminded Yang Ming. If Yang Ming was in the past, he would really be tricked by this kid. Even if he wasn't killed, he would be disabled. However, after 10 days of inhuman training in Europe, Yang Ming's reaction ability had reached a very terrifying level. At the moment when the young man in the basketball sweater took out the gun, Yang Ming suddenly reached out and hit the acupuncture point on the elbow of his left hand that was taking out the gun. This acupuncture point was very common. Almost everyone knew it, but if it was hit hard, it would cause the palm to release reflexively. The young man in the basketball sweater was not spared. The pistol fell to the ground with a paw sound. However, the young man in the basketball sweater was obviously not a good person. After the gun was knocked away by Yang Ming, he didn't pick up the gun, nor did he continue to launch any attacks. Instead, he pulled the chair beside him to Yang Ming, then he turned around and ran with the other two people. Outside the door of the coffee shop, there was immediately the roar of a car engine. Because there were two women around him, he didn't chase them. Who knew if this guy was luring the tiger away from the mountain? These people's conflict with me is not a coincidence. Now it seems that it is premeditated. The young man in the basketball sweater seemed to be a stupid guy, but in fact, everything that happened just now was in his calculations. Thinking of this, Yang Ming couldn't help but feel lucky. If it wasn't for his quick reaction, he might have already lost his life. Even if I was fine, it wouldn't be good if the pistol went off accidentally and hurt Xiaoqing or Sun Jie. After a little hesitation, Yang Ming figured out the general situation of the matter. These four people came in after Xiaoqing and I entered the coffee shop. It seems that they should have been premeditated for a long time, but how did they follow me here? Yang Ming didn't know. Was it a coincidence or something else? After these four people came in, they had been looking for an opportunity. One of them left and went to the Nissan van at the door, ready to escape at any time. The departure of this person gave the young man in the basketball sweater an opportunity to find fault. This seemed to be almost rogue looking for fault, but in fact, these people were deliberately looking for fault. The pot of tea that was thrown over was actually to bring Yang Ming's table into this dispute. taking advantage of this dispute to distract Yang Ming's attention, and then to kill Yang Ming. However, why didn't these people shoot in the back? Yang Ming was a little confused. Although the 4 people escaped, Yang Ming didn't have the intention to continue to stay here. He didn't care about the stunned waiter standing there. He threw 100 yuan on the table, and then quickly left the coffee shop with Xiao Qing and Sun Jie. The pistol on the ground was also put into Sun Jie's backpack quietly. Originally, there was a good opportunity for a threesome, but the atmosphere was ruined in vain. Xiao Qing was obviously frightened. Yang Ming and Sun Jie comforted her for a while. Send her back to rest. I will go first. If there is anything, call me. Sun Jie helped Xiao Qing into the car and said after closing the door. And you be careful too. Yang Ming had no other thoughts now. What happened just now had made him a little irritated. Sun Jie nodded. There was no expression on her face, but there was some warmth in her heart. Sometimes, the feeling of being cared for was really good. Just looking at Yang Ming and Xiao Qing sitting together, Sun Jie's heart felt uncomfortable for no reason. In her life, she was also a very strong person. Although she was looking for Xiao Qing this time to end the abnormal relationship with her, when she saw that Xiao Qing was actually with Yang Ming, Sun Jie immediately had a feeling that her own things were taken away by others. As for what was her own things? Was it Xiao Qing? Or was it Yang Ming? She wasn't too sure herself. After sending Xiao Qing back to her apartment to rest, Yang Ming took a shower here. After clearing his mind, he lit a cigarette and carefully thought about what happened today. Yang Ming rarely smoked now. He would only smoke when he was thinking about a problem. At this moment, Yang Ming frowned. He really couldn't figure out what was going on today. If someone really wanted to kill him, it wasn't impossible. He had a lot of enemies. For example, Wang Jitao or Huang Yukai were very likely to do such a desperate thing. There was also an inexplicable organization that had been entangled with him before. He still had a person from their organization. It was possible that this organization wanted to retaliate against him. However, today's matter didn't seem to be the case. This seemingly well-planned shooting incident actually had a lot of suspicious points. The young man in the basketball jersey could have shot him from behind. The success rate was higher than distracting him and then shooting him with a gun, but he didn't do so. This was very suspicious. And, wait. Yang Ming suddenly thought of a very important problem. That was, according to the plan of this group of people, they used the teapot to provoke him. However, there was a very sharp problem in this. If the young man in the basketball jersey threw the teapot, what would happen if the waiter in the coffee shop couldn't dodge it? Wouldn't the teapot hit the waiter's face? Wouldn't they fail to achieve their original intention? That waiter has a problem. Thinking of this, Yang Ming quickly picked up the phone and dialed Ho Jinhan's number. He explained a few words to him and then hung up the phone. Yang Ming asked Ho Jinhan to go to the coffee shop to find the waiter. As for whether the waiter had escaped, Yang Ming didn't know. He could only take one step at a time. In the underground parking lot of a private company, far away from the coffee shop, the white Nissan van was parked there, but there was no one in the car. In a secret room not far from the parking lot, a very gloomy man was reprimanding 4 young men. One of the young men had a bandage on his hand and a band-aid on his nose. Yes, he was the young man in the basketball jersey who attacked Yang Ming in the coffee shop. Standing next to him were the other 3 accomplices. So fucking useless. You can't even do this well. The gloomy man reprimanded angrily. I'm sorry, boss. The young man in the basketball jersey said carefully. Forget it. Fortunately, I have a backup plan. Everything depends on all along. The gloomy man said faintly, well, the 4 of you go down first. Hide for a while. Don't be found. Yes, boss. The young man in the basketball jersey said quickly. After the four people left, the gloomy man stood up from the boss chair and said fiercely, "Yang Ming, you spoiled my plans. See how I deal with you." At the same time, Ho Jinhan had already led people to surround the coffee shop. Chapter 675. Lu Silong, what happened over there? The owner of the coffee shop came over in a hurry. This Lu Silong was the waiter who had just escaped the teapot attack and saw the whole process of the conflict between Yang Ming and the young man in the basketball sweater. Because the conflict and the young man in the basketball sweater took out the gun in a flash, no one else in the shop saw the details except for the waiter. At this time, there were not many people in the shop, so the only witness was this waiter named Lu Silong. Lu Silong tidied up his clothes and said indifferently, "Manager, it's nothing. There was a small conflict between the two customers. Here, this is the money left by the customer." As Lu Silong said, he handed the 100 yuan bill left by Yang Ming to the manager. "How much is it to break a teapot?" This 100 yuan was enough to cover the cost of the coffee, so the manager didn't say anything more. After all, he didn't lose anything. "Are you okay?" The manager received the money and asked Lu Silong. "I'm fine." Lu Silong smiled and said, "Manager, don't worry." However, Lu Silong knew that if there was no accident, someone would come to him. Sure enough, it didn't take long for a group of people to come into the coffee shop. The person who took the lead glanced at the waiter in the shop and walked straight to Lu Silong. Because Lu Silong's characteristics were easy to recognize, he had a yellow buzz cut. This was different from the other waiters. "You, come with us." The person who spoke was naturally Ho Jinhan, the person who took the lead. "Well, let's go out and talk." Lu Silong said calmly, "Don't make trouble in the shop." Ho Jinhan nodded. He didn't expect this kid to be quite cooperative. Outside the door of the coffee shop, Lu Silong didn't make trouble. He obediently got into Ho Jinhan's car. Because of the large number of people, Ho Jinhan brought a Jinbei van this time. After getting in the car, Lu Silong also sat there quietly. He looked as if he could be killed or tortured by others. Ho Jinhan was too lazy to care about him. Brother Yang hadn't said anything yet, so he had to catch this guy first. He didn't know what to ask this guy. "Boss, the matter is done. The kid has been caught by us." Ho Jinhan called Yang Ming and reported. "Oh. Caught." Yang Ming was stunned after listening. He didn't expect that the waiter didn't escape. "Then you wait for me at the Nightless Club." Hanging the phone, Yang Ming said, Sister Xiao Qing, today's matter. I will go out. And be careful." Xiao Qing knew that Yang Ming had something to do. If today's matter wasn't handled well, she would be worried all the time. Calm. You've worked hard, Big Ho." Yang Ming patted Ho Jinhan's shoulder and said. "What hard work." This person didn't resist at all. After catching him, he didn't say a word. There was no fear at all. Ho Jinhan smiled bitterly. "Oh." Yang Ming frowned. There was an indescribable premonition in his heart. It's not as simple as it looks on the surface. "Let's go in and take a look." Yang Ming sighed. He pushed open the door of the room and walked in. Ho Jinhan followed closely behind. Sure enough, it was the waiter he saw in the coffee shop. At the moment, he was tied to a chair without saying a word. He didn't make any noise. His eyes were staring in one direction. "Do you know why I asked you to come?" After Yang Ming asked this sentence, he felt a little funny. It was like the tone of the police interrogating the prisoner in the TV series. Lu Silong rolled his eyes and didn't speak. If you don't want to suffer, tell the truth. Yang Ming sat in the chair opposite Lu Silong and asked. What do you want to know? What do you want me to say? Lu Silong finally spoke, but his tone was very indifferent. Are you with the group of people today? Yang Ming asked after a moment of hesitation. That group of people. Which group? I'm just a little waiter. I don't know this at all. Lu Silong looked like a dead pig that wasn't afraid of boiling water. Really? Then how did you so coincidentally avoid the teapot thrown by the kid? Yang Ming sneered. I can only say that I am lucky to avoid the teapot. What coincidence? Lu Silong said indifferently, if you want to talk about coincidence, I think you are the one who is coincidental. You blocked the teapot. That is really a coincidence. It seems that you are also the kind of person who won't give up until you see the coffin. Yang Ming waved his hand and said to Ho Junhan, let him have some fun. Ho Junhan nodded and walked over to Lu Silong. In his hand, it was unknown where he got a stun baton from. Looking at the flashing electric sparks, Lu Silong's performance wasn't as calm as before. There was a trace of fear in his eyes. He seemed to be hesitating and struggling, but he clenched his teeth. All of this was seen in the eyes of Yang Ming. Yang Ming was somewhat puzzled. He didn't know what the guy in front of him meant. If he was said to be timid, he was so calm before. However, in that instant, he wasn't as calm as he had been before. Don't electrocute him to death. Electrocute him where his flesh is thicker. Yang Ming wanted to see how long this guy could be stubborn. See. Lu Silong took a breath of cold air. Obviously, the voltage adjusted on Ho Junhan's stun baton wasn't high, so when the electric current hit the body, it would only be painful, but it wouldn't cause any problems. I'll ask you one more time. Were those people with you today? Yang Ming looked at Lu Silong, who was grimacing in pain. Lu Silong clenched his teeth and closed his eyes. He had a painful expression. Continue. Yang Ming instructed Ho Junhan. Yes. Ho Junhan adjusted the stun baton and then poked at Lu Silong's belly. Ah! Lu Silong screamed, and the veins on his forehead popped out. It should be about time, right? I have suffered some physical pain for a while. If I say it now, it shouldn't cause any suspicion, right? A voice came into Yang Ming's mind. It's coming again. Yang Ming looked at Lu Silong with interest. Isn't this guy's idea a bit special? What does he mean by saying it now won't cause any suspicion? Could it be, he has been acting all along? No, I can't stand it if it continues like this. Ayo! Lu Silong screamed and said, don't electrocute me. I will say it. I will say it all. Ho Junhan took back his hand and stood aside. Yang Ming stared at Lu Silong and said, say it. What is your name? My name is Lu Silong. They all call me all along. Lu Silong said honestly. Today's group of people, are they with you? Yang Ming continued to ask. Yes, I am indeed with those people today, said Lu Silong. Oh. So, you have premeditated it, asked Yang Ming. I'm just a small fry. What the boss says, we will do, said Lu Silong. Then who is your boss? Yang Ming continued to ask. I can't say it. If I say it, the boss will kill me. Lu Silong's face showed a look of horror. If you don't say it, I will let you die now. Yang Ming snorted. Do you think I will let you go before I get a satisfactory answer? I really can't say it. If I say it, I will die. Lu Silong shook his head and said. Big Ho, since he doesn't say it, then drag him down. Electrocute his little penis until he is electrocuted. Yang Ming looked up and said to Ho Jinhan. No problem. After Ho Jinhan finished speaking, he was going to grab Lu Silong. Oh my god. Didn't the boss say that there was no danger? Why is this Yang Ming style so evil? Forget it. I should say it in advance. I don't want to suffer. If I say it now, he shouldn't doubt it. After all, my current situation is also very critical. Although Yang Ming heard his thoughts, his expression didn't change. This was his secret, the secret of victory. Looking at Yang Ming looking straight into his eyes, Lu Silong was a little guilty, but he still said, well, I will say it. I will say it. Don't electrocute me. Say it. Yang Ming waved his hand and signaled Ho Jinhan to wait. It's Sun Jia. Lu Silong said with fear. Chapter 676. Sun Jia. Yang Ming looked at Lu Silong with a stunned expression. Sun Jia sent someone to kill me. Is there a mistake? Don't tell her that I said it, or I'm dead. Lu Silong said carefully. Are you sure it's Sun Jia? Yang Ming looked at Lu Silong strangely. I said, do you know who Sun Jia is? That is, the one who sat opposite you today. Said Lu Silong. Then, why do you think Sun Jia wants to kill me? Yang Ming didn't believe that Sun Jia would send someone to kill him. There was no reason at all. I have no grievances with Sun Jia. In the end, there is some ambiguous relationship. Why would Sun Jia kill me? It's a big joke. Even if Yang Ming's method of getting Sun Jia was a bit rough, it would never be enough to be hated by Sun Jia. Yang Ming stared at Lu Silong and didn't speak. He just looked at him like that. Lu Silong was a little guilty. He couldn't help but have a cold sweat on his head. However, he couldn't think of a reason why Yang Ming didn't believe him. So, on the surface, he still pretended to be very calm, but his heart was very turbulent. He should be able to believe it, right? There is no flaw in what I said. Sorry, I don't believe what you said at all. Yang Ming smiled and said, it's full of flaws. Ah. Lu Silong was stunned. He looked at Yang Ming incredulously. Why does it seem that what I just thought was known by him? Big Ho, continue. I want to see what a roasted chicken looks like. Yang Ming said. No problem. Ho Jinhan said as he picked up the stun baton and approached Lu Silong. Don't. Lu Silong was so scared that his voice changed. I have said the behind-the-scenes instruction. Why do you still want to electrocute me? Did you say it? You didn't tell the truth at all. Yang Ming said. I really didn't lie to you. How would I dare to lie? Lu Silong said quickly. Whether you're lying or not, the expression on your face is very clear. Do you think I can't tell? Yang Ming sneered. Lu Silong's heart was a little surprised. Am I really not suitable for acting? If I knew this would happen, I wouldn't have accepted this job. Sigh, this guy is really hard to deal with. Didn't Director Yun say that this mission was easy? Damn it, I'm going to die. Next time, no matter how much money you give me, I won't do it. President Yun. Yang Ming laughed. It's fine if you don't want to tell the truth, but your heart has already betrayed you. At this time, Yang Ming also heaved a deep sigh of relief. Previously, although Yang Ming did not believe that Sun Jia would send someone to kill him, he was also somewhat suspicious. After all, among his women, the one he couldn't figure out the most was Sun Jia. Yang Ming couldn't guess Sun Jia's thoughts at all. She obviously had a good impression of him, but she refused to let go. If Yang Ming didn't have special abilities, he might have been a little suspicious at this moment. After all, Sun Jia finally picked up the pistol. Yang Ming couldn't help but doubt her intentions. But now, the truth was revealed. Yang Ming basically figured out the process of the matter when he heard the two words, Director Yun. This Yun Guangdo is very interesting. He actually made such a serial plan to sow discord between my relationship with Sun Jia. Also, this guy is secretly in love with Sun Jia, but because of the relationship between Yang Ming and Sun Jia, he can only find a way to sow discord in the middle. If I didn't guess wrong, Yun Guangdo sent you, right? Yang Ming asked Lu Xilong with a smile. Ah. Lu Xilong's mouth was wide open, but he couldn't figure out how Yang Ming guessed it. Don't awe. Looking at your expression, it should be like this. Yang Ming waved his hand. Lu Xilong said, you don't have to say it. I basically guessed what was going on. Big Ho, take him down and find a place to lock him up first. Yes. Ho Jinhan directly grabbed Lu Xilong's collar, picked up the stool, and dragged him out of the door. Yang Ming began to think about the cause and effect of the matter. Needless to say, this Yun Guangdo is really ingenious. He deliberately showed a flaw to me so that I can go back to the coffee shop to find Lu Xilong. Lu Xilong, on the other hand, had previously played the trick of injuring himself to gain sympathy. He would rather die than submit. In the end, he pretended to be unable to support himself and said the mastermind behind the scenes. In the eyes of others, Lu Xilong must be telling the truth, but Yang Ming could peek into his thoughts and directly see through his little trick. Not to mention, if the relationship between Yang Ming and Sun Jia wasn't that good, and if Yang Ming didn't have special abilities, then he might really believe Lu Xilong's words. Yun Guangdo, interesting. I haven't seen him jump around for a long time. I thought he had given up. I didn't expect him to play such a trick. Big Ho, ask for Lu Xilong's phone number for me. Yang Ming called Ho Jinhan and instructed. Lu Xilong's thoughts had been guessed by Yang Ming. The matter was exposed, and he had nothing to hide. He simply answered whatever Ho Jinhan asked him. However, Lu Xilong was just a small fry. He didn't know much. Knowing Yun Guangdo's mobile phone number was already the limit. After getting Yun Guangdo's mobile phone number, Yang Ming dialed it directly. Hello. Hello, who is this? Yun Guangdo looked at this unfamiliar number and asked. President Yun. I am Yang Ming. Said Yang Ming casually. Yang Ming. Yun Guangdo's tone was obviously a little surprised, but he quickly returned to normal. Who are you? I don't know you. Don't know. You have a man named Lu Xilong. He said that you sent him. Yang Ming said calmly. When Yun Guangdo heard Yang Ming's words, his face turned green. At first, he still had a glimmer of hope. He thought that Yang Ming looked for him just because of a coincidence, and it was because of other things. However, now that he heard Yang Ming mention Lu Xilong, he immediately understood that Lu Xilong must have said everything. Motherfucker, this Lu Xilong is really a fucking spineless person. He is nothing. Yun Guangdo certainly couldn't admit it. What Lu Xilong? I don't know this person. Yun Guangdo, let me tell you. It doesn't matter if you know Lu Xilong or not. I will give you 3 days to move out of Songjiang. I don't want to see you again in the future. Yang Ming didn't want to talk nonsense with him, so he directly threatened him. Kid, let's see what you are capable of. Yun Guangdo originally had a guilty conscience, so he politely said a few words to Yang Ming. He didn't expect Yang Ming to directly threaten him. He immediately said with a sullen face, "Don't think that you are so great just because you have a famous godfather. There are some people that you can't afford to offend." "Some people?" "Hee, that's right." Yang Ming didn't care and smiled. "Indeed, there are some people that I can't afford to offend now, but you are not in this list." "Humph." Yun Guangdo snorted and hung up the phone with a thpack. Yun Guangdo was very angry with Yang Ming, but he resisted his anger and didn't show it. It was because there was a person next to him, a hale and hearty old man. "Little Yun, what's wrong?" The old man looked at Yun Guangdo, who had a red face, and asked. "A kid, he pissed me off." Yun Guangdo said with hatred, "I really want to kill him." So, he told the old man about his grievances with Yang Ming. A little impatience spoils great plans. The old man listened and said with a blank expression, "We have been lurking in Songjiang for so many years. Don't forget our purpose." "Yes, Elder Yu." Yun Guangdo took a deep breath and nodded. "Women are just worldly possessions. After we complete the mission and return to the tribe, how many women do you want? The leader will reward you." The old man, who was called Elder Yu, said faintly. "I understand. I won't be exposed. Please rest assured, Elder Yu." Yun Guangdo said respectfully. But I won't interfere with your normal social activities as long as you don't use our secret kung fu." Elder Yu said, "I don't know if Lan Hai, that old thing, is dead or not. You can't be too careless. In the past, Elder Yu smashed him into pieces. He can't be alive, right?" Yun Guangdo said. "That's hard to say. If Lan Hai, that old thing, isn't dead, our plan, AI." Elder Yu shook his head and didn't say anything. "Elder Yu, don't think so much. If your kung fu is mastered, then you don't have to be afraid of anyone." Yun Guangdo comforted him. "I hope so." Elder Yu sighed. "I'm leaving first. I can't be away for too long. My current identity is not easy to arrange. It won't be good if I'm suspected. Goodbye, Elder Yu." Yun Guangdo quickly lowered his head and said. "No need to send me off." Elder Yu waved his hand and left Yun Guangdo's company. He rushed in one direction. Chapter 677. Regarding Yun Guangdo's behavior, Yang Ming didn't take it seriously. Yang Ming didn't put Yun Guangdo in his eyes at all. This person was just a small character. He instructed Ho Xinhan to focus on finding trouble with Yun Guangdo, so he no longer paid attention to these trivial matters. Sun Jie's phone call also followed. "Yang Ming, there should be a problem with that waiter." Sun Jie waited for Yang Ming to pick up the phone and immediately said, "When I sent someone over, the waiter was no longer there." "Hee, you thought of it too. But I was one step ahead of you. The waiter is already in my hands." Yang Ming smiled. "Oh. Was this for real? Your action is quite fast. It seems that I didn't warn you." Sun Jia shook her head and continued, "Right, there is one more thing. The pistol I picked up was also a fake gun. It was a toy pistol, I guessed this earlier." Yang Ming smiled. "Where did he get the real gun?" "Him." "Do you know who did it?" Sun Jia was stunned and asked quickly. "I know." Yang Ming said, "Guess who?" "Who?" "How can I guess? Who knows who has a grudge with you?" "Right, could it be that Ouyang Junyuan?" Sun Jia thought about it and asked. "It's not him, but the waiter said that you ordered him to kill me." Yang Ming suddenly changed the topic and said seriously. "What? Me?" Sun Jia suddenly heard Yang Ming's serious voice and couldn't help but be stunned. Then she said, Are you suspecting me? No. Yang Ming smiled again. So, I asked someone to use a stun baton to electrocute that guy's penis, so he finally told the truth. You are really bad enough. Sun Jia breathed a sigh of relief. If Yang Ming really suspected her, then her heart was really a little lost. Who did it? Yun Guangdou. Yang Ming said to Sun Jia truthfully. Is it him? Sun Jia frowned. He hasn't harassed me for a long time. I didn't expect him to endure for so long, but this move of his is really ruthless. Trying to sow discord between us. Fortunately, our relationship is quite solid. Otherwise, he would have taken advantage of this loophole, Yang Ming said. What are you going to do? Asked Sun Jia. A small fry, why bother with him? I can kill him anytime. Yang Ming said, I'll get Big Ho to deal with him. Big Ho? Sun Jia asked curiously. It's Ho Jinhan. Yang Ming explained. Right, Yang Ming, what is your relationship with Ho Jinhan and Bao Sanli? Sun Jia asked after listening, are you hiding something from me? I have a lot of secrets, but I can't just tell you. Let's talk about it after you become my woman, Yang Ming said. Isn't it now? Asked Sun Jia. The person is, but the heart is not. Yang Ming snorted. Whatever. Forget it if you don't want to say it. Sun Jia said faintly and hung up the phone. Yang Ming shook his head and didn't care. Right, Big Ho, how is my uncle's entertainment city going? Asked Yang Ming. The entertainment city has been refurbished and reopened. At present, it seems to be doing well. Ho Jinhan said, the sand field has also been bought and given to Mr. Yang. This Mr. Yang was, of course, Yang Dashin. It's good that it's done. Yang Ming nodded. Right, Big Ho, my dad just became the chairman. He is not very clear about many operations. You should help him when you have time. I'm afraid that Uncle Fong and Little Wang can't handle it. Wang Jinda is fine. That kid is smart. He must be Uncle Yang's right-hand man. Ho Jinhan smiled after listening. However, the concert is about to be held. I have to help coordinate it. Well, you do as you see fit. Yang Ming instructed. Yang Ming finally took a break from his busy schedule. He leaned on his bed and stroked a diary in his hand. His mood was very complicated. It was very impolite to peek at other people's diaries, but since Wang Shui gave this diary to him, it meant that there must be something related to him in this diary. After hesitating again and again, Yang Ming decided to open it and read. Since he had decided to accept Zhou Jiejie, then he should try to understand her. Reading a diary was the best way to understand a person's heart and character. The small lock on the diary was basically useless for Yang Ming, a master of unlocking. Picking up a paperclip, Yang Ming opened the lock on the diary. The diary started when she was in junior high school. From the initial immature handwriting to the later elegant handwriting, it symbolized that a girl had moved from ignorance to maturity. The ups and downs in between were such precious treasures. Yang Ming decided to take a look at it first, so he specifically picked some chapters related to his name to read. Yang Ming's eyes were comparable to the search function in a computer. He directly scanned through every page of the diary and easily found the relevant chapters. However, Zhou Jiejie, this little girl, was also very interesting. Yang Ming found that his own name was basically replaced with Qi or Ym. June 14th. Why is it that every time he talks to Suya, he's always so pleasant, but when he talks to me, he always has an impatient expression? When he talked to Suya in class, I reprimanded him as the class monitor. I didn't want to scold him at first. I just wanted to take the opportunity to talk to him more, but it seemed that he was more annoyed with me, thinking that I was meddlesome. Yang Ming smiled bitterly and shook his head. AI, we were really naive and ridiculous at the beginning. Xiao Qing was right. Zhou Jiejie always used the class monitor's identity to control me. It turned out that she was interested in me. But, at that time, who could think so much? Thinking of high school, Chen Mengyan seemed to often treat him like this. Yang Ming suddenly realized. He continued to turn the page, June 18th. Today, the results of the math competition came out. YM actually got the first prize. However, what was unexpected was that Suya actually also won a national second prize. I only got the third prize. It turns out that YM likes smart girls. From today on, I have to work hard. Work hard to learn mathematics. Math competition. It seems that I really got the first prize. In retrospect, Zhou Jiejie did ask me some Olympiad questions for a while. At that time, I thought that she didn't like me and deliberately found difficult questions from the question bank to make things difficult for me. It seems that I misunderstood. September 10th. Today is Teacher's Day. The school has a half-day holiday. But, my mood is very bad. When he left school, he actually left with Suya. The two of them were actually holding hands. Are they already in love? What should I do? Is holding hands falling in love? Yang Ming sighed. Who can say it clearly at that age? September 11th. I told Teacher Wu what I saw yesterday. Teacher Wu will definitely separate him and Suya, right? In this way, I have a chance. It must be like this. I'm in a good mood today. Teacher Wu talked to Suya alone. Maybe she will be transferred to another seat soon, right? Aren't you making a mistake? Yang Ming looked at Zhou Jiejie's childish handwriting and was somewhat speechless. Isn't this thinking too simple? Will I be able to be with you if you break me up with Suya? However, seeing that you are still young, I won't argue with you. The past, Yang Ming was too lazy to care about it now. Moreover, Zhou Jiejie was willing to lose her life for him. These small mistakes, Yang Ming didn't intend to pursue. September 15th. Did I do something wrong? Suya transferred schools. She actually transferred schools. I don't know why, but my mood became bad. It is reasonable to say that my chance is greater now that Suya is gone, but I can't be happy at all. Suya, I'm sorry. I really didn't mean it. I didn't expect the result to be like this. This is the result of making a mistake. However, seeing that Zhou Jiejie had remorse at that time, Yang Ming felt that his heart was more comforted. September 16th. Today, he didn't come to school. Why? Did he also transfer schools? I didn't listen to what the teacher said. My mood is very bad. What should I do? Who can tell me? Seeing this, Yang Ming couldn't help but think of the things in the past. Suya's departure from him was truly an unbearable period of time. However, at that time, I hated Zhou Jiejie to the extreme, but now it seems that this was just an infatuated little girl being impulsive. Chapter 678. He remembered that he hadn't entered the school for half a month. He had been staying at home and didn't listen to anyone. After the incident, the first thing he did when he stepped into the school for the first time was to find a few delinquent girls to beat up Zhou Jiejie. Now that he thought about it, Yang Ming felt a little regretful. September 30th. Today, I was taught a lesson by a few delinquent girls in the society. I know that he found them. I'm not going to tell the teacher this time. It's also to let him vent his anger. As long as he doesn't blame me anymore, it's fine. I really did something wrong. I originally thought that as long as I separated him and Suya, I could be with him. However, my thinking was too simple. Now I regret it, but how should I remedy it? Looking at Zhou Jiejia's mental journey, Yang Ming kept shaking his head and sighing. Who hasn't been young? It was really a pure and impulsive era. The persistence of young love and the longing for happiness could make a person risk his life. Zhou Jiejia was like this. How could I not be like this? Now I'm laughing at Zhou Jiejia for committing a crime. In fact, it's the same joke. I actually found someone to beat up Zhou Jiejia. Moreover, because of Suya's matter, I was willing to degrade myself. Now it seemed that it was indeed a very unwise choice. Dang dang dang. There was a knock on the door outside the room. Yang Ming quickly closed the diary and asked, "Who is it?" "Big Ming, it's me, your dad." Yang Dehai pushed the door and came in. "Dad, what's the matter?" Yang Ming put Zhou Jiejia's diary on the bedside table and then sat up. Yang Dehai glanced at Yang Ming's diary on the bedside table and asked curiously, "Big Ming, you still keep a diary?" Zhou Jiejia's diary was the kind of diary that was bought in the market with a lock, so it could be seen at a glance. "Oh, it's not mine." Yang Ming smiled. "It's Zhou Jiejia's diary, Zhou Jiejia." Yang Dehai was stunned and frowned. "Isn't she the girl who complained about you in junior high school?" "It's her." "That's right." Yang Ming didn't deny it and nodded. Since he was ready to accept Zhou Jiejia in his heart, he couldn't hide it from his parents. "But you can't peek at other people's diaries. That's so immoral." Yang Dehai obviously misunderstood. He thought that Yang Ming peeked at Zhou Jiejia's diary because he wanted to find some of her personal privacy so that he could use it as a threat. Yang Ming didn't know whether to laugh or cry. "Dad, you've misunderstood. This diary." "Sigh, how do I explain this to you? What's going on? If you have something to say, just say it. You don't have to be so secretive with Dad." Yang Dehai shook his head and said, "If you don't have any convincing reasons, don't look at it anymore. Hurry up and send it back." Yang Ming hesitated and deliberated for a long time. "Dad, I can't explain it clearly in a few words. I'd better start from the beginning." "You say it. I'm listening." Yang Dehai also wanted to hear Yang Ming's reason. Yang Dehai was still relatively assured about his son's character, so there must be some reason for this matter. Yang Dehai also wanted to get to the bottom of it. "Dad, Zhou Jiejia and I are college classmates, but she was injured because of me. She is in the hospital and hasn't woken up yet," said Yang Ming. "What? She was injured because of you? In the hospital?" Yang Dehai was shocked. "What the hell is going on?" "Dad, I'll tell you, but you don't have to worry about it." After Yang Ming finished, he looked at Yang Dehai's expression. When he saw Yang Dehai nodding, he continued, "When I was helping Uncle Chin to solve a smuggling case, I was kidnapped by smugglers to their base. At the critical moment, Zhou Jiejia blocked a shot for me. The resentment between Yang Ming and Wang Jitao couldn't be explained clearly in a few words, so Yang Ming simply pushed the matter to Qin Fei. Catching the bad guys, his father, a person with a strong sense of justice, would definitely support him." Sure enough, Yang Dehai nodded after listening, and then sighed. It turned out to be this case. Sigh, this silly child. "Big Ming, why didn't you tell me earlier?" "Dad, don't you want to ask why she blocked the shot for me?" asked Yang Ming, baffled. "What else do you want to ask?" Yang Dehai looked at the diary on the table and shook his head. "I, your father, have lived for so long. How can I not figure out these things? If I didn't guess wrong, this little girl complained about you because she was jealous of you and Suya, right?" Ah. Yang Ming didn't expect his father to be so powerful. He immediately said the key point of the matter. What are you going to do? Yang Dahai didn't say much and asked directly. I promised her that I would take care of her in the future. Yang Ming said with some shame. Big Ming, I can't interfere with your matters. Yang Dahai was also very helpless. However, now you already have two girlfriends, Meng Yan and Lan Ling. If you add another one, what will Meng Yan think? Meng Yan also sympathizes with her. It shouldn't be a big problem to persuade her. Yang Ming said. If I remember correctly, you still owe a girl named Lin Jiyun a favor. Yang Dahai reminded. Yeah. Yang Ming nodded deeply. The responsibility he had to shoulder was getting heavier and heavier. One day, I will meet her parents with your mother. Yang Dahai said, whether Zhou Jiejie can wake up or not, your mother and I will help you take care of her. Dad, thank you for understanding. Yang Ming said with some emotion. He thought his father would be angry with him. Yang Dahai patted Yang Ming's shoulder. Big Ming, you are now an adult. Dad won't say anything more. If you think it is right, then just do it. Yang Ming smiled and suddenly thought of something. Right, Dad, why are you looking for me? It's like this, Big Ming. Yang Dahai took out a piece of paper from his pocket and said, Old Feng, Little Wang, and I discussed it. About the concert, where do you think it is better to hold it? One is your school, Songjiang Industry University's gymnasium, and the other is the 7th District Stadium. Where do you think is better? This kind of thing, you don't need to discuss it with me, right? These are all unimportant matters. Yang Ming looked at the information in his father's hand and said, I think it is better to hold it in the school's gymnasium. Many of the college students are fans of Shuya. The atmosphere at the scene can be more lively. But if you look at the perspective of social influence, it is better to hold it in the stadium in the society. We have differences of opinion because of this. Yang Dahai smiled bitterly. Old Feng means to hold it in the 7th District Stadium, while Little Wang means to hold it in the school's gymnasium. As you said, there are benefits to both of them. Old Feng considers our advertising effect and thinks that it is better to hold it in the society. But Little Wang considers from the perspective of economic benefits. Shuya is the idol of college students. Holding it in the campus can make the venue more popular and make money. Isn't this easy to handle? Yang Ming smiled. Anyway, Shuya's itinerary is to stay in Songjiang for many days. Just arrange a few concerts in 2 places. That's right. Why didn't I think of it? Yang Dahai slapped his thigh and said, then it's settled. Tomorrow, I will contact the venue. Right, Dad, give me a copy of Shuya's specific itinerary tomorrow. When it's time to pick her up at the airport, I will also be there. Yang Ming said. Okay. Big Ming, do you know Shuya? Yang Dahai was a bit puzzled. I know her. I feel that her name is similar to Suya, so I pay more attention to her. Yang Ming explained. Yang Dahai nodded and didn't say anything. He turned and left Yang Ming's room. Yang Ming hadn't gone online for a long time. After his father went out, he turned on the computer and logged into QQ. The offline messages kept ringing, which gave Yang Ming a fright. However, most of them were some inexplicable group messages. Yang Ming closed them one by one. There was a group called Fishman Diehard Group. Yang Ming didn't know when he joined it, but he directly exited it. I'm a superstar left a lot of messages for Yang Ming. At first, it was pleasant, but later, there was nothing except an angry expression. It was probably because Yang Ming hadn't been online for a long time, so the other party was a little angry. Sorry, I've been busy recently. I haven't been online. Are you still there? Yang Ming sent an apologetic smiley face. Speaking of it, Yang Ming was really apologetic to I'm a superstar. He hadn't talked to her for a long time. When he was frustrated in the past, it felt really good to have such a friend to encourage each other. Now that he was proud of it, he forgot that there was still this netizen who had accompanied him. Although the two of them had never met before, they could be said to be good friends who talked about everything on the internet.